The Toronto Raptors get blown out for a third straight game. This time there was no comeback because there were no Wizards. Damian Lillard called it game time in the first quarter. This was an embarrassing loss for the Toronto Raptors. I called it straight when they won against the Wizards that it was a bad look to put up this type of effort on your own home court, to have this type of gutless performance after a game in which you were blown out and handily blown out by the Boston Celtics. And I got called a hater. And I'm not here to say I told you so, but I told you so. You were down 23 points against the Washington Wizards, and you clawed back. Go back and actually, if you're not following us on Instagram, Pantera Basketball on Instagram, posted almost every single possession where the Wizards haplessly tried to score against the Raptors in the fourth quarter. They were missing point-blank layups. It was a complete self-implosion by a very immature and very bad team against a very immature and very bad team in the Toronto Raptors that had allowed themselves to get stomped by the Wizards. This was not the Wizards. But to not listen to the Toronto Raptors broadcast and believe that this is some holy grail of NBA basketball greatness that you just faced tonight. You faced a Milwaukee Bucks team without Jay Crowder. You faced a Milwaukee Bucks team without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, don't be deluded and fooled by the fact that Antetokounmpo did play tonight, the Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and you made him look like a professional basketball player. I got news for you. The Thanasis Antetokounmpo is not an NBA basketball player. He certainly looked like one tonight, right? This was a calamity of errors. It was ridiculous. However, there is silver lining, and I'm here to present it to you. There was a really good moment for the Raptors, which started at the end of the third quarter and ended right around the middle of the fourth quarter. And that was a lineup which featured Jakob Poeltl, yes, everyone's favorite whipping boy, Jakob Poeltl for this season. Jakob Poeltl, Malachi Flynn, everyone's second favorite whipping boy for this season. Scottie Barnes, everyone's third favorite whipping boy for this season. Jalen McDaniels, my favorite whipping boy for this season. And Chris Boucher, probably everyone's favorite whipping boy for the last 3 seasons. Yes, it was the underdogs, the outsiders. And they proved to you for 4 minutes until Gradey Dick checked in, and then he continued to prove it to you that 0.5 basketball offense can work. Motion offense can work if you have guys who are willing to make decisions quickly, not pound the ball. Another silver lining is that Pascal, Siakam, and Dennis Shroder were benched, and deservedly so. Went on a really long rant, 5-hour rant last live about how ridiculous it was that Dennis Shroder was allowed to come back after the game that he had. And, it didn't cost you the last game, but I'm really glad that Darko Rajakovic adjusts well. May not look like it right now, but 11 games in, he has shown you an ability to adjust his rotations when it's not working. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Raptors locker room after this loss. I wonder what the vibes are like now. 3-4 weeks ago, we were all talking about good vibes. And Pascal Siakam, in his infinite wisdom, cautioned us and said, well, when you're winning, everything's good. But when you're losing, everything's not so good. Well, now this is the type of thing that is going to gut check your leadership. You're going to find out who your leaders are. You're going to find out who your competitors are, who are your prideful people, because it does not get easier from here. You have the Boston Celtics on Friday. And if you are expecting the Boston Celtics to come out and lay an egg because you're just so used to watching a team play down to their competition, don't hold your breath. It's a professional basketball team that has professional standards and professional goals for their season. They are not about to take you lightly and allow you to build up a 20-point head of steam. That is a team that often did that a few years ago. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, not the most mature leaders a few years ago, but this year, I don't believe they will do that, even if they are without Kristaps Porzingis for that game or without Jaylen Brown or whoever they're missing. They have professionals and they have professional leadership on that team. So if you come out and play like this against the Boston Celtics on Friday for the in-season tournament, you are going to get stomped by 60 to 70 points. And it is going to be a historic loss. So the Raptors need to take a really long, hard look in the mirror. No pointing fingers. No, it's this guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. It's this, it's that. It's the talent. It's the offense. It's the bench. I'm sorry. The best stretch of basketball this team has played in a week came with a bunch of bench players today because they bought in, they played team first, they made quick decisions, They took the shots that were open. They didn't overpress. They made intelligent decisions and they guarded their asses off. We can all learn a little something from hopefully that stretch of 9 minutes of glorious basketball in the midst of a horrible loss to, a Damian Lillard, my God, Malik Beasley, Damian Lillard. What am I watching? What am I watching? Seriously. All right, let's hit the intro. We'll try to keep this upbeat. If you want something to say, call in. We have two of my favorite callers are calling in right now, Dell and Jonathan. Can't wait to talk to those guys and see what they saw in this game. I'm sure we'll all learn something, myself included. And yeah, if you hit like, I'll be super appreciative because your boy has to cover, honestly, one of the worst basketball teams in the world to watch anywhere. I'm talking WNBA, NBA, women's basketball, women's college basketball, Turkey, Libya. I don't care. Wherever they play basketball, I promise you it's not nearly as sorry as the basketball that you are watching. And I'm sorry to you. I don't work for the Raptors. I don't represent the Raptors. I represent myself more than anything else. But I empathize. I empathize with you for having to watch this trash brand of basketball. And it's not because of talent. That's low-hanging fruit. To say it's not, you don't have shooters, you don't have this, you don't have that. Low-hanging fruit, man. You saw Gradey get open and actually hit a shot. He's missed a lot of shots, but he got good ones tonight. Let's hit the intro, and hopefully this can be a little shorter than the 5-hour live we did after the Wizards thing, because I think I've said a lot of stuff that I would have said tonight then, and hopefully it can be some very lively discussions. I have a feeling this will be a good live, and hopefully something bright to end your night after that terrible loss. Quick thing. So I want to condense all of this very shortly because I think it's all worth saying. Number one, I had a live yesterday, or not a live, but a Twitter space yesterday, and we were talking to Raptor fans on X/Twitter. And one conversation got particularly heated with a Twitter user named ABT. And he mentioned that the Raptors have this really bad roster. And I'm seeing comments like this, what a trash roster. It's the worst roster, etc. Look, man, unfortunately, the nature of being a role player in the NBA is you do have to rely on your stars to do certain things. And stars, get paid the big bucks to do those certain things. Okay. Now, just because you're a star doesn't mean you have to play defense, doesn't mean you don't have to communicate, doesn't mean you don't have to pass the ball. It means that you have a disproportionate sum of money, disproportionate amount of fame, a disproportionate amount of everything in order to also have a disproportionate amount of responsibility. So I'm tired, very tired of this fan base consistently harping on role players. It's making me kind of sick. Stop it. Person said that the Raptors have 4 rotation players. We have 4 guys. The rest of these guys are all bums. And then I went down a list, and I feel that if you didn't listen to that conversation, you should. Because I started pointing out all the bums on this roster and asked him, are these guys rotation players in the NBA? We got 9 deep before he had anything to say. You have depth. You have rotation players. You have shooters. You're not finding them open. You're not finding them open in advantages, man. I watched a lot of Otto Porter in my life, man. I watched Otto Porter in Georgetown, watched Otto Porter in, Golden State, watched Otto Porter in Washington. This is the sorriest looks I think I've ever seen an offense generate for that dude. He is a role player. Jalen McDaniels is a role player, not playing very well, by the way. Gradey Dick is a role player. Malachi Flynn is a role player, becoming one of my favorite role players in the NBA, or at least on this team for sure. I think that there's a lot to say about why this offense is not working, but please don't take the bait of the low-hanging fruit to say it's a talent issue, it's Masai's fault, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. I can't force people to cut just because I practice the cuts with you and ask you to cut into place. I can't force you to communicate on defense and close the gap. I can't do that. I can bench you. Technically, I really can't though, right? This is something that I think a lot of people get sick about with the NBA game that maybe is more true in college, where in college you can actually call out things that happen as they're happening in a more honest way without the consequence of politics and contracts and, millionaires and multi-billionaire egos on the line. One particular, example that comes to mind, I don't know if people watch women's college hoops, but the women's game is in a fantastic place. And Paige Beckers is one of my favorite college players. She's incredible, and she plays for the UConn Huskies for a coach that really is a storied and respected coach. And they lost to NC State, and they shouldn't have. They were unranked, and it was a bad loss, and it looked a lot like the Raptors' losses. To be honest, like I was looking for examples around the world of where I could find some of the similar issues that are plaguing the Raptors. And I found it at UConn, NC State, women's college hoops. Paige Beckers is, to women's hoops, a much better player than Pascal Siakam, or perhaps, like at her level, she's a better player than Pascal Siakam has ever been. She's the best or second best player in college basketball right now. She's incredible. But her team, isn't guarding. They're not communicating. They're over reliant on her. They just stand around and watch her, and the coach just ripped into them. What I appreciated about Paige that I don't appreciate necessarily always about Pascal Siakam is that she took ownership. She said, it starts with me. I need to do this. I need to do that. I wonder what the post-game scrum will sound like today. As I listened to Paige talk, I remember thinking to myself, this is a 19 or 20-year-old young lady who has maturity and resolve beyond her years. She is a remarkable, remarkable basketball player. And I urge you, if you ever have a chance to watch WNBA when she does go into the WNBA, or if you have a chance to watch UConn, watch her play. She's incredible. High IQ, incredible basketball player. And what I loved about her was, as I was watching her, I was like, I wish we had leaders like this. And then I realized she was giving an answer that was verbatim similar to Scottie Barnes, something that he would say a lot, even as a rookie. It's on me. I got to do better. I got to do this. I got to do that. Leadership starts with honesty and accountability. You want to be a really great Raptor fan? It's time to start being real honest about what the hell is actually happening with this roster. What is happening with this team? Someone messaged me at halftime. They said, the body language looks worse than last year, Rob, or something along those lines. I agree. I agree. The same shoulder shrugs and screams and blank stares that were, an infrequent occurrence, and typically, were Scottie and Gary sort of looking at Fred, or, maybe Scottie looking at Pascal, or tended to have a lot to do with Scottie just wondering what the hell was happening around him. That's happening all over the court now. Oh my God, it's everywhere. Jakob looking at Chris Boucher looking at Scottie looking at, Shroder looking at Pascal. Like, it is all over. Even go back and look at that play that Pascal Siakam hit the game winner against Washington, and go look at how much body language confusion there is, and how much dragging of feet there is, and how much you're missing. Now, that play in Washington was very interesting because, for one reason, and shout outs to Raptors Republic and Samson Folk for doing a little bit of a deep dive in 2 minutes and breaking that down. But something that I really wanted to harp in on was what Scottie did without the basketball. So the play was, Dennis Schroeder has the ball at the top right corner of the court. And it's designed to get Pascal Siakam in isolation. And of course, the Wizards, who've been torched by Pascal Siakam for 37 points up until that point, don't want to surrender that. And so, they do their best with the defenders at their disposal. And Deni Avdija is supposed to be the help. He's supposed to be, sagging towards the paint. Scottie's not the greatest shooter at this point in his career. So they feel like they can sort of sink off of Scottie towards the middle. And Scottie makes this really smart decision because he sees Chris Boucher kind of camping on the paint. He moves over 4 or 5 feet to get a little bit further from Pascal to correct the spacing. And it's this little subtle shift that when Deni Avdija adjusts to Scottie, Pascal Siakam goes. Not because he sees what's actually happening. It was pure luck and pure, incidental that he timed his attack exactly as Denny was shifting. But that one thing that Scottie does away from the basketball, away from a play that he is not involved in, does not touch the ball in, allows for Siakam to actually have a clean look at the basket without a really good defender in Denny Avdija being able to help. Things like that are not happening for this team, and I want to know why. Rotations are not happening for this team, and I want to know why. Damian Lillard shredded you. He's a very good player, but a lot of other teams have found a way to keep him at bay, and I feel like we also found a way to keep him at bay. Is it as simple as saying, well, you don't have O.G Anunoby, and O.G Anunoby helps? And that's part of it, for sure. O.G Anunoby cleans up so much for this team, and I feel like at this point, if you as a Raptor fan still doubt what he's worth to you, watch the last 2 games over and over until you change your mind. He's a very good player. Something away from basketball before we get to Dell and Jonathan and the box score breakdown. Apologize. Just want to take a minute to just say one thing. One of my favorite coaches was just inducted into the New York Hall of Fame. Coach Ronnie was very instrumental in the lives of a lot. I will at some point pull up a picture and do a more apt sort of shout out and tribute to him, but I just want to say that this is a person who has coached around New York City kids like my whole childhood, and he's been coaching for 49 years in New York, and he's made such a significant impact on the lives of young men. And it was interesting to see the lineage. His father was Emil. His father, Emil, was Dr. Emil, was the doctor who operated on Martin Luther King when he was stabbed in 1958. This is small impact, at the time, Dr. King was a very prominent writer and leader, but we would never know what he would go on to influence in those 10 years. And so I guess I wanted to say that to all of you who make these small little contributions every single day, you never know who you're helping. You may never save the life of someone like Dr. King. And I don't think Dr. Emil knew at the moment that he was saving Dr. King's life, because Dr. King wasn't Dr. King at that point. He wasn't. There was no Selma. There was no March in Selma. There was no I Have a Dream speech. But to think what those next 10 years meant, and to know that it started in an operating room with someone operating, humbling. Dr. Emil, Coach Ronnie's father, he passed away 38 years ago. But it's always interesting to see that even though Coach Ron is not, like his father, he's not a doctor. He is not, some well-known MD. It's still interesting to know that spirit of service remained in him, and how much he's done for the lives of kids who, frankly, went down a very different path than they would have had they not been coached by him. So big shout outs to him and Carmelo Anthony and the list of people who got into the New York Hall of Fame. That's New York Basketball Hall of Fame. That's really awesome. All right, let's quickly break down the box score. There's not a lot to break down, man. I'm not even gonna be capping. This is becoming a real trend with the Raptors. This little chart of just getting blown out in the first quarter, and okay, today you shut them down again in the fourth, man. They couldn't score that same line, but this time the 2 lines were just too far apart to make a difference. You shoot 27% from 3. You have 14 turnovers. This is a predictable pattern of behavior over and over and over and over again, right? You out rebound them by a lot. Crash the offensive glass. You get a ton of opportunities here, right? Let's take a look at the individual box scores first with the Toronto Raptors. 29 minutes for Pascal Siakam, 31 minutes for Scottie Barnes. Very different games, very different impacts for those 2 players, but the result is still the same. A couple of really, really ugly turnovers for Siakam. Starts out the game with just a terrible turnover. He had a second turnover, and I was like, oh boy, this is a game where he is not dialed in at all mentally. He's just not there. And those turnovers were just, it was like a microcosm. I think Scottie picked up a turnover for a turnover that should have gone to him as well. He really should have 5 turnovers for this game, but let's call it what it is. Just really didn't like this game from Siakam. It was like if he was not individually isolating one-on-one, he was doing absolutely nothing for your offense. I do like his compete level a little bit better on the glass. I think it's been better since we made that video about him not, rebounding at all. I think he's just been better at rebounding. and defensive rebounding specifically. Like, he's not missing his rotation. He's not missing his box out as much. But defensively, like, he has still been leaking a lot of oil. Jakob Poeltl got off to a really shaky start, but man, like, he made up for it in the end, right? Like, it was like he made himself pretty unplayable in the beginning. Gradey Dick gets his first start of his NBA career, -29, 2 for 10, makes 1 3, gets to the line 6 times. He tried his best. I mean, he's not a starter in the NBA at this point. I think that's pretty clear. But I'd be very curious to see what he could do in an offense that generates cleaner looks. You know, I hate to blame the offense for everything, but he is a better shooter than he has shown so far, and his shooting struggles are a small microcosm of everyone's shooting struggles right now. Scottie goes 3 for 3 from 3. Therefore, you know, to anyone saying he should not shoot threes, well, you know, tonight, like, I would like to think what would your percentages be if he doesn't go 3 for 3 from 3? There was a couple of times where Scottie, you know, again, it's funny, you know, this could be a time to, you know, have a lot of told you so's, and 29, 9, and 7 is certainly a very good game for Scottie Barnes. He shoots, you know, very efficiently from the field. He gets to the line 5 times. You know, he goes perfect from 3, but I think he could do more. He can do more. He can be better than this for sure. I think tonight, with the roster that they had, you know, granted, Brook Lopez still a hell of a defender, but I think if he had gotten assertive a little earlier, he could have had 40 tonight easily. And I think his team would have been better off for it. It's not really about numbers. It's not really about counting stats. You know, I don't give a shit about that stuff. I genuinely feel like he could have attacked earlier. He could have attacked stronger into the paint. He could have taken a few more shots, you know, in rhythm that were available to him. I think he could have deferred a little less to Dennis Schroeder in the beginning, because certainly when he started commanding the offense looked a lot better. And I think this team needs to wipe away whatever brainwashing they have from last year of just throwing the ball to Fred and just, you know, having that be an automatic decision. No, you don't need to pass the ball to Dennis Schroeder. He's not doing anything for you in transition. He's not finding any advantage. He's not a paint attacker. He's not a great shooter. This is not the person who you want to put the ball in their hands in transition. And you need to stop doing it. And Scottie Barnes is talking directly to you, man. You need to stop giving the ball to Dennis Schroeder to ask him to initiate offense. He's not good at it. To the bench. Chris Boucher, another gutsy performance, man. 9 and 9. He was all over the place. He was attacking the offensive glass. He tried his best on defense. Got exposed a little bit earlier on. No shade to Chris Boucher tonight. Really professional effort in 20 minutes. I think he played great. Precious Achiuwa, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was good. It was decent. He got a 3 in rhythm. He made it. He had another 3 out of rhythm. Didn't make it. I think he was pretty within himself. He made some smart passes tonight. He has 0 assists, but he made a couple of passes where I was like, that's a good read. That's a good, quick decision. So nothing but good for, I mean, nothing great, but nothing. Jalen McDaniels, I mean, he shoots 3 for 10. I think he passed up a few that I didn't like, you know, like, just take the shot. Like, you're a 36, 35% 3-point shooter on your career. They're open shots. He's second guessing himself all the time. His shot form doesn't look necessarily as clean or as unbothered or as unprocessed as it did last year. He's kind of getting into the paint, but then he's shying away from contact and sort of fading away from the paint. And I'm not really sure why that's happening either. So not the greatest game for him. Also not the worst game for him. He finishes plus 21. I don't think that's largely because of how he played. I think that's mainly luck of the lineups that he played with, but he wasn't disruptive to those lineups, and he was a part of those lineups. And I think his defense was competent, not great, not, you know, amazing, but competent. Otto Porter plays a scoreless 11 minutes in which he generates 0 shots, gets 1 rebound. What do you want me to say, man? He's one of my favorite players. I think the ball is just, it's just a weird game for him. But I don't think he had a bad game. I don't think he had a great game. I think he was competent on defense. I think he made the right reads. I think he was a catalyst for movement in an offense that was getting very stagnant. Malachi Flynn goes 0 for 8 from 3, thereby tanking that 45% 3-point shooting that he had going for him. So that's not going to be great. And, you know, to anyone who looks at this box score for Malachi and says he had a bad game, you don't understand basketball at all. He had a fantastic game. I think 7 of those 8 threes were threes that I would absolutely 1000% be mad if he passed up and he missed them. It happens. Shooting variance is a thing. He missed them. I was just encouraged that he kept taking them, and I was very happy about that. He earned every one of the 27 minutes that he got tonight. He guarded. He got off the ball quickly. He's not perfect. He's not a perfect player. And if we had Tyus Jones on this team or DeLon Wright, I wouldn't be singing Malachi's praises. I'd probably be singing their praises because I'm just happy to see someone who's not doing the shit that Dennis Schroeder's doing. And this is not a this guy versus this guy thing. It's just when the gap between two players is just so obvious in terms of the impact that they're having, it's hard not to point it out constantly. From the Bucks side, Chris Middleton's still on a minutes restriction. Brook Lopez is pretty much my age. Shout out Robin. You got in for 2 minutes. Brook Lopez, 33 minutes. He had 7 blocks. Yeah, that's not a typo. He had 7 blocks tonight. I'll tell you one thing before we get to the callers about what that usually means. Okay. Damian Lillard with 37 points, 13 assists. He did whatever he wanted on the basketball court. He probably could have gone for 50, 60, 70. There was nothing the Raptors were going to do to stop him. I think it was just mercy that he did not put more, because really he stopped himself tonight. Okay. Like, he decided to pass the ball off to Malik Beasley. He could have just pressed hard and there was no response. Scottie, when he started guarding him, it got a little bit better, but even then, he would shed him and then he would get to the second line of the defense. And then it was just boom, paint, blow by, blow by, blow by. I'm not sure what you can do about this, but certainly everyone talking about, all the point of attack stuff with Dennis Schroeder. I think you need to see what that looks like against, the type of guard that Damian Lillard is, also the type of guard that Jrue Holiday is, because I think Jrue could probably take him to the woodshed as well. So there are limits to that. Of course, Chris Middleton being on a minutes restriction is going to hurt you on a night where you don't have Giannis Antetokounmpo, but I think they got really competent minutes for Bobby Portis. Marcin Beauchamp, one of my favorite young players in the NBA, gets injured, doesn't come back. They end up having to play Pat Connaughton, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Cameron Payne. I think Cameron Payne was tough, like really tough shot maker, ex-Raptor, giving the Bucks some very valuable minutes. He's been competent. He's rarely ever brought up in the Masai Ujiri mistakes of like players you kind of let slip through your system. I'm not crying over Cameron Payne. I just think Cameron Payne is better at making shots than half their roster. So, maybe it's that. All right. In terms of any overall trends, I mean, we can talk about it during the call-ins. Let's get we got Dell. Dell, you were first. Dell, what's going on, man? Welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you. Pretty good. How are you?
I'm okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I watched this game with like a little bit of different energy than I did the other one. Like I watched it with the last live ringing in my ears. I was watching the game, and it almost seemed as if they would do things that you had mentioned, and I was like, "Am I just seeing is it like playing with my mind, or is it that Scottie really is hiding in the corner like all the time, or Precious at times, like some of the decisions he was making, I felt like they weren't quick enough. Not that he had a bad game overall. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is, I was like, wow, I can see the holes, like all the things that are bad with where this team is at. I didn't expect them to play out today, but I thought that they did. And even in terms of how I feel about it, normally I would have more of an optimist eye as far as watching the games. Think, okay, maybe there's at least this positive to take away. But one of the things you said also stuck out to me. I think Scottie needs to do more. Sure, he had a good game, but this guy can be like, I don't want to parrot your points, but I looked at it and I looked at all the times that we had the ball at the top of the arc about to initiate offense. Scottie has a decision to make, and he makes it. And it creates something. And I felt like we weren't leading into that as much as we possibly could. There were some turnovers that I think Schroeder made either the first or second quarter that, like I have a lot of hair, but it really tested it. Like I almost pulled some out at a point because I'm like, there's ways to lose the ball and you're fine. Decisions you can make that don't pan out and you're fine. But there's also ways that you can suck the energy out of the building and the team that as the leader, I don't think you should be doing. And you need to have the self-awareness to be even able to say, okay, maybe I'm doing this cool. I need to be able to settle down, like put my head on the way it's supposed to be. But I don't know. There was a bit of disappointment today. I'm sure that they're positives, but maybe another caller can get to that because I just wasn't happy with where things were at today.
I think the positive was the 9-minute stretch that I referenced earlier. Specifically, towards the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, they played with energy. I think you saw right there. I mean, the slope. I mean, this is grade 2 math, right? Look at the slope. It gets a little bit better. And it pretty much dies around the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter. And then, the Bucks go on their big run and it's over. And it's a game of runs for sure. But you stopped them and you were continuing to score. I think the difference between this game and maybe the Wizards game is they continued to score 3 points every 3 possessions. They still managed to make a shot here. They still had Brook Lopez. He would, get a 3-point play and it would break your run, or Damian Lillard would get to the basket and it would break your run. And the Wizards simply didn't do that. The Wizards were like a comedy of errors where they just couldn't score. And if they had done what the Wizards had done, you would have come back again. You would have come back again, right? You would have closed it to 5. At that point, you're at home, crowd's going nuts. They choke. They got Kyle Kuzma and, Jordan. Like, I was just like, man, can we just bring Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole and, those guys back and just, put them on the Bucks so we can have another fake win and people can, tell me about how Pascal Siakam carried and this and that. You're right. My goal with this channel actually is to do exactly what you're saying, which is to point things out so that people can see them. And focus on them, because at the end of the day, people have this slant about like, oh wow, you're always criticizing Fred, or you're always criticizing Siakam, or you're criticizing this player. But if what I was saying wasn't true, it would never work. If I tell you that, look at Dennis Schroeder's decision making, he's so slow, he always brings the ball and he's just racing up the court and making quick decisions, you would think I'm stupid. If I said, like, look at Pascal Siakam never boxing out, and then he boxes out every single time and he's grabbing like 15 rebounds, you'd be like, okay, he's just wrong. Sometimes you can be wrong. And I think you're right. I like that thing that you said about there are ways to lose the ball, and then there are ways to lose a ball that sucks the energy out of the building. And I think that that's exactly it. People may not always know exactly what's going wrong on the basketball court, but I think most people who watch basketball intuitively understand what good basketball looks like.
Yes.
Like in the at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, the crowd really got into it. It was still almost a 20-point game. But they got into it because the Raptors started playing with force. Yes. They started playing quickly. There was like a toughness and a quickness. And so even when the shots were bouncing out, the crowd was really into it. They were like, oh, when Gradey would miss a shot, or Jalen McDaniels would miss a shot, or Scottie would miss a shot, it'd be like, oh, it was a backbreaker because they were trying. And see, like, a lot of I think Pascal Siakam, I don't want to misquote him, but after the last game, I think he did a post game where he was just like, it's kind of hard when you're at home and the crowd is just going, and whatever. I'm pretty sure he said that. And I was just like, yeah, that's on you. As a team, they paid to see you. You didn't pay to see them, right? And I think that entire equation needs to be properly balanced out, right? When you play basketball in a spectator sport, it's just like when I run a film festival. I can't be like, yo, everyone's booing this movie. What ungrateful people. No. Your job to put on a great film for them to feel something. They're paying customers. It's the same thing with the Raptors. I mean, people are paying 200, 300, 400. I mean, the Bucks, I think the Bucks were a marquee game. And you don't even get to see the former league MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You don't get to see O.G Anunoby. So this is already like a sour to anyone who, invested in this as a birthday gift. It's like, oh, Scottie and, Siakam versus Giannis and Dame. Like, wow, you get to see half of Siakam. You get to see a misused Scottie, and you get to see a big fourth quarter push when the game was over, and you get to see Giannis in street clothes. Like, this is a bad investment. So at the very least, you have some sort of pride to say, look, we gave them, a real heartache last game. We got blown out by Boston. Let's show a professional effort today. But once again, I think this is a team that saw no Giannis and decided we can coast, we can win this game the way we did last game, and you can't.
I have to ask a question about this. This is something, maybe again, it's my background as far as like the whole soccer thing. I grew up watching the English Premier League. So I'm more familiar with thinking in that sort of way. So even when it comes to like how a team is performing, how they're winning games, how they're losing games, you need to see most fans, well, outside of like glory hunters and maybe casuals, most fans would like to see some sort of identity. For some teams, defense, midfield solidity, as far as soccer goes. You have offensive wizardry, some way, shape or form. But sometimes the basketball, it confuses me because I'm like, I expect a team every team to give me the bare minimum. And to me, the bare minimum is effort and connectivity in terms of your identity. Like, do you know what you're going out there to do? Obviously, when you switch the personnel, if you have an entrenched system, I know that we switched coaches and all this and all that, but and I'm also I'm not trying to like harp on Darko or the coaching staff. I'm just saying like the expectation should be that when you play, I don't even want to use buzzwords, but there's a certain type of pride that aligns with that. You're not just going out there to go through the motions, and I'm not trying to harp on the players either. I'm just So I don't want to go around in circles. It's difficult at times.
No. I hear you. And look, like, I mean, there are teams out there certainly that have built their identity on defense, or on rebounding. We are going to out rebound, or we are going to outshoot. Like the Golden State offense. You mentioned last time that you loved the Spurs 2014. I mean, I love the Spurs 2014, the Spurs 2007. There's a lot of teams. The Pistons 2004. And ironically, I also, even though they beat the Raptors, I like the Sixers 2001 team. I like the Bulls 98 team, 97 team, 94 team, or 93 team. Every one of those teams, the Pistons, the bad boy Pistons in that 91, every one of those teams has a definitive identity. They have a brand of basketball they play. The Raptors 2018, 2019 team had a definitive brand of basketball they played. They moved the basketball. They guarded like crazy. There was a lot of like really efficient offense being played. And it took 8, 9, 10 rotation players really buying in and executing. And the execution has been so lacking with this team that it's hard not to look at someone like the coach, and say, well, what are you coaching if they're not executing, right?
Yes.
I think I don't know if you watched the pregame presser or the the day off presser yesterday, where Darko Rajakovic talked about Malachi Flynn. And he talked, they said, like, what was your plan with him? And he said to make him smile, because he plays like a dramatically different person when he's happy. And I thought that was a really interesting thing, because I was like, congratulations, lock, key, you unlocked it. You figured it out. Malachi Flynn looks like a completely different player. I don't care if you went 0 for 8. This is not the player I saw last year. Last year, I saw a timid player who was second guessing himself all the time. Now I don't. I see a professional player who's putting in his best effort and is guarding his tail off, regardless of what is going on around him. He has taken this entire mantra of win the day, win the moment, win the shift, like, to absolute heart. And I am so incredibly proud of him for doing that. I say proud of him not in a, like, rude way, but I am 10 years, 11 years older than him. So I can just be proud of him as like a player that I root for. I'm proud of Scottie, for like having that sort of identity as well. But the identity, this entire connection, the connection that this coach is trying to establish with his players through positive encouragement, it can work for a lot of people, I think. Some people are charged this way. Like, you can charge them through praise. But I do believe that there are certain other players that cannot be charged through praise. And I don't know if this is definitively factual, but this is certainly anecdotally my experience with people. There are certain people where you can tell them every single day. I've always, I guess this is sort of comes back to Kobe and Michael, right? I think of people in a really strange way. I think of people as, how do you charge? Some people charge through positive reinforcement, right? You tell them that they're great. Whether they're great or not, they start to believe it. They play better, right? You give them high fives. You tap them on their back. You encourage them. Like what I'm saying for Malachi right now is probably exactly what Darko was saying to Malachi. I'm glad you took the shots. Keep taking the shots. I don't care if you miss 50. Take them. This is great for somebody who is naturally positively charged and well-intentioned. Also important. He is well-intentioned. Malachi never went out last year and tried to play the wrong way. He just couldn't play the right way through whatever, demons he was battling in his own head. But he was still trying. He was still working. Talk to anybody who was, with the Raptors. They were like, oh, he's always in the gym. He's always working hard. Okay, so you have a person who is, at least from the intention side, trying to be a professional basketball player and trying to contribute to team winning, and he wants to play the right way. He's simply unable to. So how do you unlock that? The intention is good. The key and the lock thing works. There are other people where you simply cannot positively motivate them. You must actually berate them. And that's sad to say, but they need to hear the tough talk. You're not guarding. You need to have pride. You need to have a professional effort. This is ridiculous. You're going to get benched. And then that person's like, all right, I'll prove him wrong. I'll prove him wrong. And then they play better. Some players are like that. It's sad to say, but it's true. And Darko's going to have to reconcile with the fact that there are certain players that are like that. Then there are certain players that are neither positively nor negatively charged, and it is irrelevant whether they are positively or negatively charged because they're simply bad intentioned. They don't have the intention to be professional basketball players. There are certain players, I was thinking just very much yesterday about Lenny Cook, a player who was ranked above LeBron James in 2001 in the high school rankings, never made the NBA, has a list of excuses about why he didn't make the NBA. It's everybody else's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's people around me. Someone gave me money, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, this guy is never going to have the work ethic to make it. So it doesn't matter if you yell at him. It doesn't matter if you pat him on the back. He's not going to be professional because he's not professional. This is not a shade on Lenny Cook. I watched Lenny Cook play when I think I was 12 or 13 years old. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. He wants to be spiritual leader now and kumbaya and go to preach to the kids about how not to be the next Tim. He's still the next Tim right now. So this is the demon. Then there's the fourth type of person. And I think this is the Kobe and the Michael, which is they are both positively and negatively charged. And this, I think, is the recipe for greatness. Most importantly, they are also charged when there is silence. They basically find charge everywhere. So if you tell them great game, their first thought is, that wasn't even a great game. You don't even know what a great game is. I'm going to show you what a great game is. If you tell them they had a bad game, they're going to be like, oh, you think I had a bad game? I'm going to show you I'm going to prove you wrong, right? Michael Jordan was like this. You give him praise, you don't say anything to him, basically. Someone said, nice shot, Mike, once, and he took it as an insult. And they were just being like complimentary to him. And then someone said, you can't guard me. And he put 55 on their head. So it's like, if you're looking for a charge and you positively motivated and, you can find it. And then if no one says anything to you, then you just assume that because there's no chatter, that must mean that you must do more. This is a person who is unstoppable force of nature. And that's when I think of it like an avalanche or something that, something that just builds as it goes, or like a ball that just moves through the atmosphere and just picks up energy wherever it goes. And then like as it moves, it picks up more and more energy and becomes larger and larger. And as it becomes larger, it becomes more of a force. And often, we think about basketball players developing or soccer players developing. Like, I've watched very minimal soccer, but I love soccer. It's kind of a weird thing. I'm not very good at it. Football. I like, really enjoyed watching Alessandro Del Piero play. Like when I was younger, like I liked watching Ronaldinho play. Like, so when I would watch these guys, as much as I could try to understand the game that I was watching, I would always see there was like an element of when you're down, like come back. When you're up, you're not up by enough. There was like a real professional effort to not embarrass the opponent, but rather to keep focus. And that focus and that positive charge, negative charge thing is aligned with all greatness, I think, with all athletes in all elements. And I think it extends beyond athletes and it extends to anything, because there's too many people in this world that coast on their success. And I feel like greatness never coasts on its success. It only builds on its success. So I agree with your point about, sorry to go into a long-winded rant about the elements of, charging emotions and stuff. But I think you're right. I think this team needs to hang its hat on an identity. And I think that identity needs to be defensive toughness and team first basketball. And yeah, it just can't happen when you have two guys who refuse to buy in, because it's a really small court. Like I think the thing about football is there's so many more players on the field. So the impact of any one player, even though it can be significant, obviously if you have a midfielder who won't defend, or you have like a striker who simply is just terrible, it will always like tilt your entire offense. You may never score ever with one weakness. But I think in basketball, because there's only 5 players, it's even more magnified.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I want to, okay, 2 questions then. Or maybe let me even try to see if I can wrap it in one. Do you feel like, I'm sure to some degree you feel like, not just this channel, fan pressure can maybe quicken this process of defining an identity as far as, or putting enough pressure on the team to move in a direction? Do you feel like that's something that can be done, that people are doing? Or does it just, I don't want to assume just because I wasn't born in the basketball.
Yeah. No, I think it can. I think, the Raptors PR department is very attuned to what is being said. I know that because very often I will notice that questions are directly responding to things that are being said about the team. For instance, Scottie was baited into a long-winded rant about Pascal Siakam's professional effort yesterday. Unprompted, somewhat. So they like I used to do some of this stuff myself, ask questions and try to get answers. So I'm pretty familiar with how the game works in terms of I have an article, I need this quote. How do I get and how do I ask the question that gives me the answer that I need so that I can print this player saying it, right? Because it's so much more credible if Scottie Barnes says Pascal Siakam is a great leader than if I say Pascal Siakam is a great leader. So how can I ask him a question in which I can get him on record saying Pascal Siakam is a great leader? And this is the case for all politics and all, economics and everything, really anywhere money and, media are involved. This process exists. And so yesterday they asked him some question about, the comeback win and how it was being charged. And then, expecting him to go into this whole, like, Pascal did it for us. And he didn't do that. So then they asked him specifically about when did you know that Pascal, was really dialed in? And then he said something along the lines, which just read so false to me, honestly. And I'm surprised that he said it. He said, he never takes any games off. He never takes any plays off. He's always dialed in. I've watched Scottie Barnes for, answer questions for many years now. I've never heard him have to vocalize that a player on his team is not taking games or plays off. That's interesting. I don't know. Anyways, to the point of can fans make a difference? I think they can. I think fans vote with their remotes and with their pocketbooks. If not pocketbooks, then, their bank accounts. MLSE business, Raptors business. At the end of the day, if they truly believe that fans will tune out of this product, then they will put pressure on the management to change the product. And I think that, if you look at various online polls and stuff, whether people in this city, the fans, would be in favor of a rebuild or a retool, I think they would be. I think they very much would be. I think this team would support good basketball, even if it leads to losing, as long as they see the process being developed. We have sat through this process before with the We the North Raptors, DeMar, Kyle taking their lumps. We can do it again. No problem. We know at the end of the line, we have a superstar in Scottie who can take us beyond. So now it's just about putting the pieces around him. People have been saying this for years now. Very smart people in the NBA community have been saying for years that we need to start building a roster that makes sense around this guy. And it seems like this team is just hedging their bet between two timelines and two play styles and two very dissimilar, very disjointed, very incompatible play styles. It doesn't really make sense. So I think last year, the Fred stuff, I think it makes a difference. I think it made a difference. It made a difference to Fred for sure. He talked about it constantly. His family talked about it constantly. The fans really putting pressure on, get this guy out of here. I think it mattered a lot. Fan sentiment shifting on Nick Nurse, I think, mattered. I don't think it was the determining factor in whether or not Nick Nurse is fired, but everyone preaching selfishness. I mean, where did the concept of selfishness and the Raptors come from last year? Who called it out first? This channel was first by a mile on calling out selfishness. And we drummed it. And suddenly I saw it leaking everywhere into the lexicon of the Raptors. And suddenly you got Masai Ujiri calling his own team selfish. And I was like, this is how ideas transfer. You tell enough people the truth. Those people tell their friends. The friends tell their friends. It's like a virus, but in a good way. You just have to call it out. So look, like questioning Siakam's 2 All-NBA nods or whatever, questioning his status as a superstar, that started on this channel too. If within the Raptor sphere, this definitely started on this channel. And now it's just commonly held belief. And I've always found it sort of ironic to sort of sit back and listen to people, say like, I'm this and that, I'm wrong, I'm this. I'm like, cool. You have absolutely accepted everything I said a year ago and now are presenting me what I'm saying now as ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like a year ago, we were saying like, okay, Fred needs to leave. A year later, everyone agrees. A year ago, we were saying Pascal is not an MVP candidate. He's not a top 5 player. He's not a superstar. You can't win with this guy. Now everyone's like, okay, but blah, blah, blah. Rob, give him credit. He is a Batman. I'm like, I never said he wasn't a Batman. Sorry, he wasn't a Robin. I never said he wasn't a Robin, So it just gets to that point where I'm just like, okay, you're going to take your kicks for trying to say something before other people accept it. But if you don't say it, then the acceptance will take longer. I feel like if I don't exist, everything that is being said now will be said, but it will be said later.
Right.
So my goal isn't really to present the truth that is impossible to view. Rather, it is to illuminate truth before it becomes commonly held belief. And Yeah, so I hope that the Raptor fans, that the Raptors, management can look at this fan base and say, okay, they will accept a good, beautiful brand of basketball, as evidenced by all the cheers for the team in the fourth quarter, even if it means losing the last vestibule of what we hold dear about the championship run. I think people can let that nostalgia go now. It's been 5 years.
It's
a long time.
Man.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, the only thing I think I would either add or say beyond this is that at some point I'm going to feel more comfortable about being a basketball fan and not just, like an alien in a whole separate culture in this kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say that to say, in terms of even expectation, sometimes I wonder if I'm expecting too much, because this team, I feel like I'll be parroting Masai now, but this team and this city can do so much more. And maybe I'm saying that as someone who didn't always live in Toronto, didn't always live here, and I see what it is, and I'm like, why do people speak as if this is a second-class NBA city? And I don't even know if they can feel it sometimes. We should.
I say this one immigrant to another. I feel the same way. I feel the city is so much better. And whereas when I first came here, I always thought I'll go back to New York when I'm older. My parents kind of forced me to come here. The more I got older, I was like, no, I'm good. I'll stay. I love this city. It's awesome. Yeah. Anyways, Del, thanks a lot for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Love the conversation every time. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Salvatore Russo. In fact, you made Fred the scapegoat when it should have been Siakam all along. Go refresh my take, man. I have been very clear that Fred, for his contractual chasing, was bad for basketball, bad for the Raptors, bad for leadership, bad for Scottie. But when it came to play style, when I made my video on 7 players I would not trade for Kevin Durant, Fred was on that list. Siakam was not. So I'm pretty clear that neither of these guys factor into my future building of this team. And yes, you are right. I did say Pascal Siakam was a top 25 player last year. Did I feel that way? Yeah, I really did. I thought he was just fringe. I thought he was a fringe top 25 player last year. I think I went as high as saying top 20. I was battling people who were saying he was top 5, top 7, top 8. So I thought baby steps, right? But yeah, I mean, so far this year, he's been top 90. Yeah. If Scottie Barnes wasn't playing, I wouldn't be watching any of these games. Yeah, man. Okay, Jonathan, what up, man? How you doing, Jonathan?
Sorry, I think I was on mute there. How are you, Rob?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna mirror that. I liked what the previous caller just had to say in terms of positivity. It was I so desperately want to say some things that wildly frustrated me, but I think I'm gonna focus on the positive. Maybe I'll get one thing in there, but
okay.
9:21 of the second quarter, and Malachi with the blow by on Boucher. When he saw that left shoulder drop, and just like, it was like watching. Have you ever watched dog racing?
No.
Okay, well, they got this little like bunny, right, that they have on.
Oh, okay, yes.
They have on a wire.
Yeah. Okay.
As soon as that goes, the dog is on it, and that's all I could see with Malachi all night. It was.
He was a little pit bull, was he?
Oh man, it was really good.
They used to call Kyle that little pit bull.
Yeah, well, little pit bull, big dump truck. Love Kyle. So the other thing that I want to say, this is not about the game, but the post that you made about Coach N. I thought it really aligns with a lot of the things I've been hearing come out of like Scottie's mouth specifically this year.
Yes,
where it's like, let the game come to you, and it's like the cousin or twin or complementary phrase to the one that Coach N was using.
Yeah,
that was really good. I wanted to share something that's, I guess, a little bit more revealing of my weirdness. One of my favorite sounds when I'm watching the game, like favorite sounds, and it makes me like, I get this little like 5-year-old Jonathan cackling grin on my face is when Scottie's barking when he's chasing, or he's trying to contest. That
he probably leads the league in yells per game. Like he's been doing it since I want to say he's been doing it since grade 9.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's like a high school thing from Scottie. Like
I noticed that a lot, like throughout all of his years, and I love you can even go.
It works
when he was younger.
It's weirdly effective. It has been working like in a really strange way. It has worked a lot.
Yep, and it's it makes me appreciate Pascal's little yip that he does when he's doing either the whirligig or the spin move. His I don't know. I think the audio audio stimulation can sometimes throw people, especially when it's like up close like that.
Yeah.
Really like the emotion of the crowd. You were talking about how there was like when the crowd was watching good ball being executed by that one specific lineup. Dick was 1 for 6 tonight from the 3, and that shot, like his 6th that he actually made, was
the one from the top.
The crowd went fucking nuts.
Yes. And that's actually the shot that he's known for, like the top. So he's been, for whatever reason, he's been camped out in the corners and he's been bricking them, right? But this was something that I noticed with his shot chart at Kansas was a lot from the top. And some guys just are better from the top. Like they see better from the top. They're just not corner shooters. Then you have a guy like PJ Tucker who basically, if you move him off that corner, he's throwing darts into an ocean. Yeah. So like they need to, and it's happened quite a few times. I would love to see Gradey Dick shot chart, and I'll probably do like a Gradey after 20 games type of, how's he struggling? How's he making things work? But I've never really felt like he hurt you other than shot making. Like tonight, Gradey and Malachi combine 1 for 6 and then 0 for 8 from 3.
Well, so that's 1 for 14. Off ball and his defense was great tonight. And like I think if okay, there was a couple mistakes.
It was okay,
but there was some real aggression in spurts.
Yes, you're right about that. Like he tried. Like if I could channel Gradey's effort and intelligence into Precious Achiuwa tonight, I would have created Giannis Antetokounmpo. So like I mean, he's doing the best he can. I always say, like, it's again like what I was talking about with Dell. It's about, is your intention right? That matters so much to me. Are you trying to play the right way? Are you trying to buy into the offense? Are you trying to help your teammates? Are you trying to box out? Are you trying to get to the right spot? Or are you seeing the guy blow past you and you're just like, okay, I'll check out on this play? Because that type of shit, I don't want to see it. Like if it happens once, twice a year, okay, fine. Everyone has an off day. People are dealing with things off the court. When it happens every game, when it happens like 6, 10, 15, 25 times a year, like clockwork, I'm done with you as a player. Like you not be on my roster. Like I would not tolerate that level of disrespect. It's disrespecting the game at the end of the day. LeBron James talks a lot about this. Coach Ronnie talks a lot about this, which is really about trusting the game, allowing the game to come to you, but also never disrespecting the game. When you play basketball, especially when you play basketball for a living, yes, it is a culmination of a tremendous amount of work, but it is also a spot. It is a spot that you are taking that other people, who probably as well as you, but maybe took like slightly different channels in life and maybe made slightly worse decisions than you. They don't have that spot. So you need to cherish that spot. And, double so if you're a superstar, because you're picking like, you have a chance to be a billionaire for playing basketball. You have a chance to be a billionaire for putting a ball in a hoop, So the perspective on this is very rich. It needs to be hammered home to young players that to never, become so big that your head becomes so big that you forget about that, and to always treat the game with respect. And I've always respected players who, did their best on the court. It doesn't matter if, shots make or miss or whatever, but like really just try. I supported Pascal Siakam a lot when he was a younger player, particularly before the 2021 season, 2020 season. I was not one of the people calling for his head, at the bubble. I was disappointed, but I wasn't like, what the fuck? Because I had seen this guy work so hard to build himself up to who he became.
Yeah.
that it was very hard for me to understand, how I was watching what I was watching. It hurt, but I didn't hold it against them. I don't think I really shifted my perspective on Pascal Siakam until Scottie's rookie year, when he came back. And then I was like, oh, this again? Like,
Yeah.
this is the third time you're doing this again? And then he did it again last year, and now he's doing it again this year. So I'm like, you know what? You don't get to fool me 5 times and, not tell me who you are as a person and a player when you do shit like this. So at this point, I'm just ready to move on. I would be very happy if I woke up tomorrow and found out the Raptors had made a trade.
Mhm.
I think they need to make a trade.
Yeah.
I think that, very desperately need to make a trade before, and I mean, you never know. Like, these things are so fickle, right? Like,
Yeah, well, price is pretty good on a certain player for sure.
I mean, you might have to, you might have to do it at a loss, a little bit of a loss.
You're gonna
cut
take
your losses.
You're gonna take a loss on that, but I'm saying, depending on how shrewd you are, depending on what you're going after, you could make something. You can make something. You got to find a guy who's out of place, but still has game, and take advantage of that. But that's I'm gonna say one complaint, and it's just a minor one. Dennis has to he has to come off the bench. Like, his minutes have to be limited, and he has to, like, they got to put a leash on that, because it is violent to watch. Like, I want to puke. Honestly, there's
and you're such a nice, and you're the same really nice person who's preaching butterfly effect. Sorry, not the butterfly effect. The preaching of the patience with the butterfly. And, like, I mean, yes, I mean, and I agree. 11 games in,
patient, right? And
11 games into Dennis Schroeder's Raptor career, and I think I can definitively say this is one of the worst Raptor basketball, like Raptor floor generals, not players, floor generals. And this is including Derek Martin, Milt Palacio. It's bad. It's real bad.
Those are some bad names. Holy shit.
I mean, Derek Martin was a seasoned pro. I mean, he was a pro's pro, but man, we gave him too much leash with the offense sometimes, and it drove me mental. But I will tell you, like, it is some. Like, I watched a lot of basketball the last 2 days. I don't know what got into me, but I wanted to watch as much as humanly possible. I literally lived, breathed basketball. It didn't matter if it was NBA, if it was WNBA, if it was, high school basketball. I was watching everything. I was watching old tapes that I have. I'm just, like, trying to watch basketball. And I think part of it was just a trauma response to having to watch this team. I just wanted to watch anything else. Maybe that was part of it. The other part of it was just to see how this game is growing and evolving. Like, I watched 1992 playoff game, Chicago Bulls. Like, I was just watching and I was just trying to see, like, what is the consistent element that is being done by good teams and not being done by bad teams. And I just came back to force. It always came back to force. Good teams played with force. What they guarded with force, they played offense with force, they shot the basketball with force. And I think that force and not cheating the game are very much linked, because getting back on defense requires effort, energy, force. Chasing down a block, rotating when you're a little bit out of area, contesting, yelling from behind the defender like Scottie Barnes. Everything is force. Taking contact, not shying away from contact, finishing hard, finishing strong, taking shots, like, properly in rhythm, passing, even passes. My God, like, did you see the pass from Jakob Poeltl to Malachi Flynn? Like, dart in his pocket. And how many times did Dennis Schroder pass the ball behind Gradey Dick? So, like, you're in transition. Dennis sees an advantage for Gradey. And by the time he throws the pass, Gradey has to lean back to get it. And the 1 second it takes for him to gather his balance, grab the ball, start dribbling it, your advantage is gone.
It's like throwing a pass fast and a stick at the same time.
Exactly. Like, one thing I noticed is, like, something that Brian has talked about a lot, which is, going up a level. Every time you go up a level, the size, strength, skill, quickness, like the quickness of how fast this thing comes at you. And sometimes I think it's really humbling to go and just pick up basketball at, the the local gym and see how terribly players are playing.
Mm-hmm.
But to their standard, they're playing incredibly well, right?
Yep.
You see, like guys who maybe, played high school basketball 15 years ago trying to set a pick and it's late all the time. And you see them throw a pass and it's off target all the time. I tell you that there are probably some rec league teams and youth level that are executing a pick and roll more fluently and more accurately for their level than the Raptors are doing for their level. I really think like the Raptors execution has been bottom zero. Like there's no team in the league that is executing as poorly as the Raptors right now. And without OG Anunoby cleaning up so much of the defensive issues, and these issues have been there all year. And this team has not clicked for 4 quarters all year. I think the closest they got, as I mentioned in my live a couple of days ago or yesterday, was Milwaukee, the game where they blew out Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
That was about as close to 4 quarters of proper execution. But there are actually teams out there where not executing for 4 quarters is the abnormality, is the exception. Where there are teams out there that just genuinely, whether they win or lose, is never on execution, is never on effort, is never on anything, is actually usually whether shot go in or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always going to lose 10, 20, 30 games a year because the other team is just on fire.
Yeah, they're hitting.
And they have a very special performance. It's a schedule loss back to back, or the 4th game in 5 nights, or some shit like that, or you're down and your injury. These should be the losses. The Raptors' losses so far this year have, with the exception of maybe 1 loss, been entirely self-inflicted. Yep. I'm not saying this team should be 10-1. I'm saying if they didn't do to themselves what they are doing to themselves, they could be 10-1 right now, which is the crazy thing to think about. No, sorry, 9-2. There is no way you were going to win that Boston Celtics game, but you could have made it close.
Well, if you played, I won't even get into the hypotheticals with the Boston game. I knew that was going to be like, I couldn't even really join in or talk because I was very frustrated with that. Markquis Nowell had a nice little blind dime.
I missed it. I went to prepare the live, and then I heard the oohs and ahs, and I heard Mr. New York City, and I was like, oh, Markquis, he did something great. Yeah. I had no doubt that he was going to do that. Kudos to him. I certainly don't agree that he's going to be the greatest Raptor of all time, or even the greatest Raptor point guard of all time, or even the greatest Raptor backup point guard of all time. But I admire. He is a player. He is a player who never ever cheats the game in terms of playing with force. Mm-hmm. I've watched quite a bit of him lately. Checked out his 905 debut, 9 rebounds. This is a guy who just goes balls to the wall all the time.
Yeah,
and I
he doesn't
that.
have a dial. He just has, there's a switch.
Yeah, it's go. It's go all the time, go. And if everyone on this team could adopt Markquis Nowell's motor, and maybe that's why he's on the team as an inspirational, mascot, mm-hmm. right? It's not to be diminutive about this. It's just I'm looking at the reality of an NBA where point guards are 6'5", and you have a guy who doesn't finish very well around the paint who's 5'6". But maybe this is the type of person you want to, groom into your system, even if he only ends up being the starting point guard on the 905 and being a very exciting, good one at that. Maybe it's just to show these people this is what we expect from you in terms of work ethic, in terms of compete level, in terms of how he guards. Like, sure, he's going to get beat every second play down the court, and he's going to need help all the time, and he's going to get blocked to the 18th row 12 times a game if he plays significant minutes, but he's always going to get up. That New York City toughness, I say this as a New York City kid, is very refreshing and very much missing on this team. He is a dog.
Yep.
Patrick Beverley, you said we don't have a dog. We have one. He's 5'6", and he will absolutely talk shit to you. I'm rooting for Markquis Nowell, man. I want him to do well. I'm realistic as well about his physical limitations, but man, if he was 6'2", I'd be so happy.
Yeah,
I really would be. He's awesome. Just for a character guy.
So, is it okay if I ask one question, and then I'll let you move on?
Yep.
This is more from educating myself standpoint, and
sure.
I see a lot of if we're facing the basket, I see Scottie normally arriving on the left hand side, and he hangs out by the corner, right? And my limited interpretation of that is what he's trying to do is be in a position where he can optimize creating space. And is there more to it? Or
There's two things really. So when Scottie properly spaces to the corner, are you talking in transition or are you talking half court?
In transition.
Yeah, so in transition, when you're a wing in transition, which Scottie often is the wing instead of the trailing big or the initiator in transition, you want to properly stretch out to the corners, sprint to the corners to allow the person ahead of the break, which is the point guard or the initiator,
Right.
to have as much place to attack downhill. Because typically, NBA players going downhill should be an automatic 2 points almost
Yes.
always, like unless somebody makes a heroic, and if that player sees help, then you have the perfect angle to a pitch out for a corner three. So this offers you two options early. The third option, so let's just break this down. Dennis Schroeder is in the middle of the court, even though he shouldn't be, and he has the ball, even though he shouldn't have it. He is sprinting down, let's say, left side of the floor, and there's a bit of a gap, and there's a defender in front of him trying to shut down the paint because that's what they teach you. Go to the paint, sprint back, and then once the guy stops, then you come out. Scottie's on the left wing, Gradey's on the right wing. If they move in, right, this will allow the defense to recover. Because now the defender who's trailing the play can actually tag two offensive players with one, and then whoever Dennis's guy was who was trying to stop Dennis can then go relocate to the shooter, and then you've lost the advantage. The way to cut this advantage off is to provide space. So when Scottie and Gradey go to the corners, now this defender is facing like one guy coming down, and whoever is trailing to help has to make a choice between two players who are not close enough to gap.
Right.
So they have to choose, I'm going to sprint to Gradey. Well, now you have two options, right? Option number one, you attack this defender with a head of steam for a layup and get fouled or something. Or option number two, pass to the shooter they didn't recover to. This is the advantage. Now, if for whatever reason you fumble this play and they manage to recover to both shooters, now typically what's going to happen is you're going to pitch it back to hopefully a trailing big who can shoot. Now, if you have Jakob Poeltl, you're going to have another advantage, which is he's going to be diving down the middle of the court, heading straight to the paint. And if his matchup is still on the other end, now you have a 2-on-1 in the middle of the court. So everything that I just described can happen in the span of 2 to 3 seconds. Everything from the point that Dennis hits the 3-point line and has to force the defender to make a decision to the point that Scottie. Now, if any one person doesn't do what they're supposed to do here, it doesn't work.
It breaks
if
down.
Dennis slows it down, doesn't work. Scottie doesn't sprint to the corner. Gradey doesn't sprint to the corner, doesn't work. If the defender, and most defenders just can't stop two players at once. Most defenders can't stop one player at once. So if you replace even one person in this equation, it becomes a totally different equation. So if instead of Scottie and Gradey, it's Steph and Clay, and instead of Dennis, it's Draymond, this is over. This is over. It's guaranteed 2 to 3 points minimum. And if you're the defense, you're actually going to chase out to the shooters and just give Draymond an open layup because it's going to be open threes for those two guys. They're not going to miss it. So it's a very interesting way to look at it. But yeah, in transition or in half court, spacing is very important to everyone, that I talk to on Twitter. I mean, honestly, the last couple of days, there's no way to say this without sounding like a complete dick. But the way that people are talking about this team is really illuminating to me how little people understand about basketball. This concept of Scottie and Pascal just need to attack the basket. Like this drove me mental yesterday. I was like, bro, you can't have three people occupying the same space on the court. It doesn't work. Otherwise, it's just going to be inefficient offense. And Scottie's going to be taking a layup over three defenders, or Jakob's going to be taking a defend. You need to give angles for
There's
passes.
a really simple way to explain like why that line of thinking doesn't work. And if you remember, it was the 2 games ago. No, the Boston game. There were two guys standing in the left wing corner, like literally beside each other.
Yep, Precious and Dennis.
And I know it's not the same thing, but that's like a physical representation of why that doesn't work, because you look at that immediately as like even a casual fan of basketball.
They didn't see each other.
That doesn't
That's
look
the
right.
craziest thing. They didn't see each other. So Precious comes to the paint. And I mean, like today, Precious had a decent game by the box score. But there were so many times where there was an advantage for Scottie to attack downhill. Now, there's people saying, why doesn't Scottie just attack downhill? Where's Precious? right? So if Scottie has a mismatch at the top that he can clearly get by, which he showed in the third quarter and fourth quarter, he gets by his man no matter what. Like he's just 1-2 dribble, one long leap, and he's gone, right? So whether they think he's like some dynamic ball handler, shifty, he's not skipped my loop, but man, he's effective at getting past this guy. He can use a screen to get downhill. He can do anything to get downhill. There's so many times tonight where the player with him didn't do what he needed him to do. He called for a screen for Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher looks at him like, what do you want from me? So then he has to go and he has to pass it off to Gradey. Or there's a time where he had a clear advantage. I think it was on Dame at the top, and he could have just attacked him downhill or put him in a post up. And Precious is like posting up in the driving lane. Like, this is just silly basketball. And it's hard to be critical of guys like Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa because I genuinely think no one really taught them how to play basketball. And that's sad because, you know, these guys are not 18 years old. They're not like Jalen Duren, you know, young prospect where it's like, okay, they're 18, 19 years old. We can teach them how to play the game. But I think this is why Darko is here. He's not just here to teach Gradey. And I mean, Gradey doesn't need to be taught how to play the game. He just needs time. He's not just here to teach the young players how to play. He's here to, you know, hopefully help even some of the older players learn how to play basketball. So yeah. Anyways, thanks a lot for calling in as always, man. And thank you so much, Leanne, for the super chat. As always, your support for this channel is always humbling and truly meaningful. Thank you.
Hit that like.
Yeah. Hit that like. Yes.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. Always a pleasure. Cheers. Salvatore, you should challenge Precious one-on-one. He would beat me 101-0, guaranteed, not even a question. See, like, you probably made that comment assuming that I would be as stupid as you are to say like, oh, I would score some points on Precious Achiuwa. The physics of me scoring points on Precious Achiuwa would be impossible. I don't even think at this point, if I was 6'7", I could score much on Precious Achiuwa. There's a really big gap between an average person talking on a microphone and an NBA athlete. I know that. I'm not comparing Precious Achiuwa to me, comparing him to his peers. All right. Coach Mo, playing for what? And Ghostface. If anyone wants to have a conversation with the four of us, then you can call in and we can just add you to the queue. I don't want to keep doing the one-on-ones, but how y'all doing? Coach Mo, we'll start with you. How you doing, sir?
Dennis Schroder, bro. That first quarter.
I feel like I need to say it's Schroder. Put some respect on the man's name.
Not doing it.
Not doing it.
He's quarter was.
Are you can call him Dennis Strudel?
Bro, Jakob Poeltl, when Dennis Schroder is the author of the offense, Jakob Poeltl doesn't even look like an NBA player.
Yeah.
I'm like Jakob Poeltl's dead money, and then the fourth quarter, something happens. All of a sudden, Scottie Barnes can actually do something with the Jakob Poeltl screen.
Bro, right? Isn't it funny how like really smart players play really well together? And I mean, I'm including Chris Boucher in that lineup. But you know what's funny? When Gradey came in, my only thought was Coach Mo is probably really happy right now because his two morons, you know, equation is perfectly in line right now. We only have one on the basketball court. I mean, really, you can compensate for one. You can't compensate for two. I completely agree with this. I think I'm the one who said it, but I'm agreeing with myself and I'm agreeing with you at the same time. Give praise.
But it's the way he's just allowed to just walk the ball up the court, demand the ball every time there's a rebound or an inbound, and everyone just hands it to him. And then he wobbles up the court.
Like he's a world champion, bro.
He has this wobble. He has this weird wobble where he just goes side to side, right? Like he has a sprained ankle. He has this weird little thing he does, right? So he gets up the court. He dribbles, asks for a screen. Nothing comes of it. Like 8 seconds are gone. And then he throws it to someone. And then that person's like, okay, thanks, I guess. And,
oh, boy.
And I feel like the way he runs the team sets the tone for how people play defense. Because no one's touching the ball.
Fair enough.
It's just weird. Our offense is dictating our defense, and you don't want that to happen, but it's going to happen. It's impossible for it not to happen. And you said it, the crowd is just not into that brand of basketball. It's just this guy is given way too much rope. It's like no one's allowed to bring the ball up the court but him. Like nobody, no one's allowed to touch it. I need to do this. What he's doing reminds me of what I used to do when I used to play 2K My Player. You know how you can pad your stats? You can pad your assist stats. This is what this guy's doing. He's rigging the system to pad his stats. Because like, if I hold the ball as long as humanly possible, Fred did this last year. If I hold the ball, if I'm involved in every play,
I have to get an assist.
The chances of me getting assists are high. He
learned under Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
He loved Russell Westbrook. He's doing the same Russell Westbrook shit, and it's driving me insane because he's not anywhere near as talented as Russell Westbrook was.
Can you remember a pass? Like, it was working for him in the beginning. Obviously, he tanked the entire team, but he had like 5 assists halfway through the second, and I'm like, this dude's a genius. He's a fucking genius. But the team is it's imploding. Siakam isn't getting no touches. Barnes thankfully was hitting threes. So, he can get his numbers up because he made a couple threes. Yep. And it's like Jakob is useless because this guy can't get him the ball at all.
Like, yeah, man. Darko is going to have to wake up to his boy, bro. Because, he's made it an entire narrative. He came in. I came here for Darko. I came here for Darko. Well, you better leave, bro. Because, honestly, this is some embarrassing shit. And it should always concern you. Always concern you when a player gravitates towards William Liu. Always. I think that's a very big concern for a basketball casual, because I cannot imagine a person who understands basketball who can stand being in that guy's company for 5 minutes. So this is this is a little bit of shade to Chris Boucher, unfortunately, even though he played a really good Boucher just catching strays and all my takes, man. I'm so sorry, Chris Boucher, if you ever hear this. But Dennis Schroeder, he's trying to document this shit. I'm sick of it, man. Look, there's no place for self in basketball. I'm just sick of it, man. I'm so sick of this shit. And he knows better. He knows better. He knows better. He's played better before. He knows this offense. But, at the end of the day, he's got this idea of himself as a basketball player. He's always had this idea in his head of him as a basketball player. And it's just not reality. It's never been reality. It's never going to be reality. And if a team is going to give him this type of reign on offense, reign in leadership, you're going to struggle. You can't just fucking put non-leaders in leadership positions. Yep. You cannot just put you cannot put lead initiation, floor general, offensive organization responsibilities in the hands of a 30-year-old who has never proven once at an NBA level that he can do it effectively. He has proven to be a spark plug type of player who can be very useful as a disruptive force, change of pace guy. When he's playing off of better players, I think he's fine. I think he's a rotation player in the NBA. This is not me saying Dennis Schroeder is not an NBA player. He's absolutely an NBA player. He's a pretty good one too. But when you overload somebody beyond reasonable doubt, beyond their talent level, if you try to, let's say, we just dropped Scottie Barnes into the Golden State offense, and we're like, okay, Scottie, be Steph for us. He's going to struggle mightily because his skill set is not geared towards that. His game is not geared towards that. If you try to replace Scottie with, if you tried to replace Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Joel Embiid right now, or Nikola Jokic with Scottie, you'd have a little bit more success because the play style and strengths are a little bit more similar, right? Those guys are better, but he's similar.
But even with the hot shooting, right? So today,
that was never sustainable.
He shot 1 of 4 from 3, right? So this season, going into this game, he's shooting 36.2%. That's the highest. That's the second highest in his entire career, and he's 1 for 4 for 3 today. 7.7 assists, I think. It's going to go down today because he ended with 5 because he got 23 minutes. He didn't get the extra 10 minutes to pad stats. But this, we're talking about a guy the last 5 years.
Okay.
He was in OKC, went to the Lakers, then went to Boston, and then got traded to Houston, went back to the Lakers for a minimum, right? And the Toronto gave him the most money he's ever gotten since his rookie extension with Atlanta. I think that was in 2017, right?
Facts.
It's crazy. When we signed him, Rob, I thought we gave him a 2-year, but a 1+1. No. This guy has 2 years guaranteed at $25 million. 2 years guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I am okay with this because he's tradable. He's tradable. Belief. He's tradable. He's not overpaid beyond belief. He's overpaid slightly on the hopes of upside.
What is he in the open market? What is he in the open market? Seriously.
Depends on what you want him to be. I mean, look, in fairness, let's
he's a second round pick to a contender.
Right now, if you tried to trade him, you'd be very lucky to get a second round pick for him.
Okay.
You would not get a first round pick for him. Can we all agree on that? Can we
Yeah,
everyone
Zero,
just
no,
He
hell
would
no.
be a
Okay.
very, very late second round pick right now. A very, very late second round.
Oh my
pick.
God! Wow, that's shade. That's shade to hell. But I mean, again, it will depend on. So at the end of the day, like there are levels to this, right? Scottie. Okay, let's just play. First of all, I actually want to ask you all a quick question. This just to see how projectable this team is. Okay, so this is for Playing for What, Ghostface, and Coach Mo. If you had to guess the 4 people who addressed the media after this game, who would you pick? I want to see if you can at least get 3 out
I
of
know
4.
Scottie did.
That's one.
Are you talking about
Darko,
players
I know
only?
Darko's the other
Players,
one.
players, right? You're talking players or
Players and coaches.
Darko, Scottie, of course.
That's 2.
Let's say Dennis.
Jakob.
Boucher.
So Coach Mo,
Boucher.
3. Hold on, one at a time.
I'm talking about people with actual a backbone, right? I'm talking about people with.
I'm not giving you any hints. I need a 4th name. Who's the 4th person who would have
Boucher.
addressed? Who said that?
I did.
Is that Ghostface?
Yes, go.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all got it 4.
Wow, Boucher. The last one was hard. I knew the 3 for sure. The first 3 were easy.
That's interesting. We will get to that. I'm very curious to hear what they have to say, but first, I am very interested to hear what you have to say, Ghostface. What'd you think of the game, man?
I feel like there's not much I could say that hasn't already been said. Dennis is annoying. Pascal is annoying. So I'll try to kick it more to like a little positive light. I like what I saw from Jalen McDaniels. Not like his
Really?
overall game, but
Okay.
what I think he can provide for us if everything goes right. I like the spacing. The effort was kind of there. Just gotta hit his shots. Has to be confident. It is what it is.
A lot of pump faking though. A lot of pump faking.
Yeah.
Just
Take the shots.
Just
Take the
take the
shots that
shot.
are there for you and stop.
Gradey does
like,
it. Achua always does it. McDaniels did
Yeah,
it a couple times. It's like y'all aren't doing anything off the dribble. Just shoot
What I
the
liked
shot.
about, like, again, Malachi went 0 for 8, right? Scottie's my player of the game today, for sure. But, like, Malachi's like my runner-up player of the game. It's so weird with him, right? Like, he can go 0 for 8, and I don't have a problem with anything he did
shots.
tonight with
Great
the
shots.
exception of, like, one thing. Because it's like, and look, man, we started out as the most bearish Malachi Flynn channel in the history of the world. And I feel like I need to remind people of this every single day because I think
He
that
didn't
it
give us
is
a choice, Rob. He didn't give us a choice. Let's not act like we didn't see what he was doing the first couple games.
That is
fair
true.
enough. But what I want to say is, like, to anyone who thinks that, this community is incapable of changing on Pascal Siakam, bro, I would love if Pascal Siakam had Malachi Flynn's basketball IQ right now. I would love it. I would love it if he could just take shots in rhythm. I would love it if he would just attack without probing. I wish he could just guard the way that Malachi is guarding, because with his body and his talent level, he'd be a superstar if he did that. Malachi is buying into his limitations right now. He's doing things that are traditionally, and this is what I liked about Jeff Doughton, to be honest, error-free basketball. Jeff doesn't always, he's not always going to hit like all his threes or anything like that, but he's going to take good ones, right? He's going to make things better. He's going to influence things on the defensive end. He's going to guard his man. When he gets beat, he's going to communicate. He's going to trail. He's going to try to close the gap. He's going to try to set hard screens, even though he's, 200 pounds, barely dripping wet. I just appreciate players who try to play the right way, and shots go in or out. I don't really care. To you, Ghostface, I don't think Jalen McDaniels had a great game or a good game or anything that I would necessarily, write home about. But I will say that he was less disruptive than some of the other players who were playing ahead of him. So maybe by comparison, I was happy to see him on the court, and I wasn't necessarily like pounding my chest like, wait, when will he get off the court? There are times during this game where I was like, when will Pascal Siakam get off the court, or when will Dennis Schroeder get off the court? I was like very, very much pounding for those guys to get off the court. But I didn't feel that way about Jalen McDaniels, but I was relieved to see Gradey Dick come in for him, and then he just missed some shots. But he made one too, which is good. Hopefully something he can build on.
What are your guys' thoughts on a bench unit when Scottie does that bench unit, now just pairing him with Jakob, because he's doing nothing with the starting unit. Like, he's doing absolutely nothing.
It's so unfair for Jakob when he plays with Dennis. He makes it look so much worse because all the centers just drop because Yak can't shoot because he doesn't know how to play to Yak's strength.
And they want Shroder to shoot.
Shooter's just not
the most useless pick and roll duo in the league. Just worthless against Colorado.
I had the Celtics game up at the same time, bro. Derek White and Luke Cornett ran a better pick and roll than Dennis and Yak. It's depressing. It's real depressing.
By far.
I think if we're gonna pay, like we already did what we did with the Jakob trade, right? It is what it is, and we signed him to, I believe, above market value.
He's
But
not a bad
you
player.
have to salvage the situation, and I think the best way to salvage the situation is to pair him with Barnes, 3 shooters, and just have him set the Jakob screens. Just screen, that should be the bench lineup. 3 shooters and high screen and roll with Barnes.
I agree.
That should just be the bench. Like, because that's
That would
what
work.
was the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, you're
And Barnes
right.
will just rip them apart on the Jakob roll or 3 guys spreading.
I agree with you 100%. Like, this
Because
is
you got to get value out of Jakob. You have to. And it's not in the starting lineup.
other teams are not stupid.
Jakob's
Like
still pretty good
he
defensively.
has, other teams are not stupid. Like, they know what he can do. Like, I mean, look, if you and I and all of us are seeing how poorly Jakob is being used, or if we can see like how overrated Siakam is or whatever, like if we can see all of this, trust me, other teams can see it too. They're not stupid.
It's a
You know what I
compounding
mean?
issue. Dennis can't shoot, or his shooting is coming down and he's very low volume. And Pascal Siakam became a strictly a layup merchant. That's it. The past couple games. Like, that's it. That's all he is.
Layup merchant.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
So
was actually at the
it doesn't
game
work.
tonight.
None of those guys are hitting threes.
Mhm.
Barnes is your best 3-point shooter at this point. Like, he's your top
That's
2 3-point shooter.
crazy.
It's that insane.
OG and then Barnes.
I
Yeah.
think OG, Gary, Malachi, Scottie.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
saying
that's
on a
just
game like
it's-
today. On a game like today.
okay. Yeah, he shot 3 for 3 for today. Let's not forget that he went like 0 for 8 or
Okay, yeah.
2
And
2 for
Gradey has
9 or
been
whatever the
missing
last few
all
games.
season. Grady has been missing all season.
He's still a better shooter than Scottie, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to make
He's a
him.
better
You got to make him.
This is
Yeah.
but this is where I have to look at my eyes and also look at the numbers and contextualize both, right? Scottie, what I appreciated about Scottie tonight is not that he made threes. It's actually that he took the ones that he was supposed to take. Okay, this is something I've been very critical about the last 2 games, is he's double thinking on his threes. My only complaint yesterday was on a Twitter space where this guy's just like, can you tell me why Scottie Barnes is taking 8 threes, 9 threes? And I'm like, bro, my only complaint is he's not taking 15. The defense is allowing him to take as many threes as he wants. Take them.
Yep.
Nothing is like, the offense is going to be better with you taking threes. I understand, like, in the 90s, early 2000s, we got into this idea of threes are bad, threes are bad, threes are bad. And for a lot of people, it's really hard to deprogram their brain from that, because they're like, why are you not attacking the rim? Because we are in an era where Tyrese Halliburton is leading, like, the Indiana Pacers to 150 points every couple of nights. You can't keep up with teams just trying to bully ball your ass into the post. You got to hit threes. You got to open up those lanes. To the thing that Jonathan Convoy said earlier, to Jonathan, there's 2 Jonathans in this channel, specifically Jonathan Convoy, and then there's another Jonathan who called in last year. So always make sure to say Jonathan Convoy to distinguish. But what Jonathan Convoy said earlier about the spacing, like, one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about spacing is it also allows for screening. It also allows for passing. You cannot pass when things are so congested. Passes get picked off. Like, if you have too much space or too little space, your passing becomes impossible. Your angles need to be adjusted. I appreciate Darko will occasionally forget who he's talking to, and he's talking to the media, and he'll start talking actual basketball. And it's really funny because Nick Nurse never did that, because Nick Nurse knew how dumb these people were. But I mean, straight up, like, I'm just, no cap, just calling it what it is, right? And Darko would just be like, you need to use your inside hand to make this pass. And I'm just like, oh, bless your heart, coach. You're trying to teach Michael Grange, I mean, who did play basketball at some point in his life, but really has no clue what he's talking about. And Doug Smith about, angles on a screen and angles on a pass. And it's just like, they don't get what the fuck they don't get what you're saying. All they've clung on to is 0.5 is hot potato basketball. And you just pass it around. Pascal Siakam 18% usage. This is like, it's such casual, like, this is so like far removed from the Raptors conversation. But yesterday I saw this thing on the score where they said 3 players to watch out for: Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Scottie Barnes. And then they just posted their points per game averages. And then today during the broadcast, I'm listening to Matt and Jack shit on per 48 numbers as like, it's such a stupid thing to say, Jack Armstrong, bro. If you need a math lesson, I can get my. He said, okay, I don't want to misquote Jack Armstrong because he's a bit of a legend around these parts, but he said something along the lines of, have you ever seen these per 48 stats? Like, what the hell is that? This is him and Matt. I'm attributing this comment to both of them because they were both laughing giddily in agreement. And he's like, none of these numbers matter. It's like this guy plays 23.8 minutes per game. That's what I'm judging. And it's like, bro, you're mental. Like, what are you talking about? Like, per 75 rate stats are the way to evaluate a basketball player. And I think that this consequently, like, it bleeds into the lexicon and the average fan psychology about why. And this is why I'm having to listen to box score casuals tell me that Pascal Siakam is the best player on this team. He's not. And Cade Cunningham, I don't think people understand how bad this dude is. I feel like I'm screaming into a well of how bad you have to be to put up the numbers that he's putting up right now. But people will point to 23 points per game because that is a nice, round, sexy number, 23 points per game. How could he be bad if he's averaging 23 points per game, Rob? Well, for the third straight year, he has negative win shares. Negative win shares. You know how bad you have to be to have negative win shares in 1 year of your life? For three straight years?
He's 6'6", shooting 40% and 30% from three.
I agree he's not a good
leads
player,
the league in turnovers. He leads the league in minutes, turnovers, and field goal attempts. Guess what? He also leads the league in missed field goals.
20 shots a game.
Oh my God, bro. And he's on the worst team in the league. Like, you got to be kidding me.
20
and he's
shots
playing
a game to average 21.3. 19.9 shot attempts a game to average 21.3.
You're not even looking at his free throw numbers, bro. Like, he's not even doing that on like, that's not even the part of it. Like, look at his usage. Like, if you gave, let me put it this way. Like, I was offended on that graphic for Cam Thomas. I was offended for Cam Thomas. I was offended for Alperen Şengün. I was offended for actual, like, good basketball players who are doing good shit. Tyrese Maxey and Scottie Barnes deserve to be on that graphic. But putting Cade on there is, like, literally, like, bro, there is a player, God damn it, what's her name? I was watching her yesterday. She is on the Phoenix Mercury, something Cunningham. Katie Cunningham, something like that. I was like, I think she might be better. She's better at her sport than he is at his sport. No shade. She's the fourth option on the Phoenix Mercury, and they are the worst team in the WNBA. This dude is bad. Like, he might not be bad if he was the sixth man. He might not be bad as a fourth option, but as what he is currently doing for the Phoenix for the Pistons, and what drives me absolutely mental about this, not to turn this into a Pistons sidebar, but what drives me crazy about this is that Asar is better.
Oh yeah, right now he is. Yeah, he's right now. Yeah,
like, as an impact player on the basketball court, yeah, I'm sure if I ran my entire offense through Asar Thompson, maybe it would suck. But I don't think Asar would necessarily take as many disastrously stupid shots and turn the ball over as much, and he would still give me, like, crazy levels of defense and rebounding on the other side. So I'm not sure what the hell they're doing. Jaden Ivey's been better,
but
Killian Hayes has been better.
Well, I got a question for you, Rob. So, what is your point of view on James Harden in the history of NBA?
What do you mean?
In the history of the NBA, in terms of where he ranks as the all-time players. So
James Harden,
where do you believe that he is in all-time players?
somewhere between 50 and 70. Somewhere between maybe 45 to 70. Somewhere there.
So
Why?
I agree fundamentally with. I don't believe that isolation.
His analytics would put him higher, way higher.
But, I mean, analytics. You can pick and choose analytics. You can pick which like types of stats or what type of analysis would actually favor a particular type of play style. But this is what I have found to believe. There has probably been only a couple of players who have successfully won in the history of the NBA playing the way that Cade Cunningham does. And it's LeBron James and Magic Johnson. That's pretty much it. There's no one else that has been able to play the way that Cade Cunningham does and actually win championships. When historically, virtually all the greatest dynasties and teams have all been movement-based teams, motion-based teams, basically. You can name virtually all of them, but Cade Cunningham is definitely an above-average player. He's just not.
You would consider Magic Johnson like a heliocentric hub type?
Later in his career when he won a lot, he wasn't a complete heliocentric, but like for his time, he was definitely one of the more heliocentric players. For his time, he absolutely was. They run a ton of side and pick and roll. If you go back and look at those possessions, he run a ton of side and pick and roll, especially when Kareem started taking a step back. And that's when they were like.
Would you consider Stockton like that?
I would definitely consider Stockton to a certain degree like that. I do think that they've specifically exploited the illegal defense rules. So I don't know. I believe Stockton's an all-time PG, but I don't know if he was a winner.
I preferred Gary Payton.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So I hear what you're saying. I don't like to rate championships the same way that maybe a lot of other people do, because I think that they shut down a discussion about who you beat and whose era were you in. I don't hold it against. I think it's a really weird conversation to have about like who beat who when, right? Because for instance, we talk about LeBron and his finals record, right? There's a lot of teams in the Western Conference that probably would have competed harder against a team that came out of the West than LeBron's team. At very few times was LeBron's, Cavaliers roster the second best team in the league. It was often the third, fourth, sometimes fifth best team in the league that just ended up being the best team in the East that year. So conference strength is a really big part of it. Michael Jordan's 6-0.
Wait. I don't want to go into this. Like, I'm not trying to compare championships. What I'm just saying is, Cade Cunningham, maybe he could be one of these players that are heliocentric. He's not going to be that great, but he is definitely a talented individual. But will his impact lead to winning? I don't think so.
This is the NBA. Who's not talented?
No, yeah, exactly. I do feel
this is like running an offense through Dennis Schroeder, bro. It's not going to work. He doesn't see advantages.
He is definitely better than Dennis Schroeder.
He's not actually a better player than Dennis Schroeder right now. He's not even close to being a better player than Dennis Schroeder.
He's just the first overall pick, and they're gonna.
He's a first overall pick, and you can say, yeah, sure. We don't know. How do you know? Like, I see negative win shares across the board.
I get what you're saying. I get from an impact perspective of winning. You're 100% right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but there are multiple ways to look at players. If you think about it like this, from a playoff perspective, James Harden is historically not. He has had a couple good runs. But James Harden is still undeniably one of the greatest players of all time. It's just was his way of playing. I mean, at least he's a top 100 player. He's at least a top 100 player. I'm not saying I agree. He's like maybe 50 to 70.
Let's never ever compare James Harden to Cade Cunningham.
I'm not saying that, Rob. I'm just saying in terms of play style, in terms of comparisons, I wouldn't say James Harden is the most impactful player when it comes to winning all time. I wouldn't say he's even a top 30 or top 40, but currently in the NBA, like Cade Cunningham is at the very least a top 100 player.
He's not.
No, he's not.
He's not.
He's allowed to do whatever he wants on a team because he's a first overall pick.
Bro, right. you give if you gave Colin Sexton Cade Cunningham's role right now, the Pistons would be better.
Colin Sexton actually averaged 20 and 10 on the Cavs.
Yes, he did.
And he actually had a good efficiency.
And he was reasonably efficient. Like,
and Kevin Porter Jr. had a nice little run, and he was.
Look, man. Like, KPJ is another example. I mean, let's put it this way: if you who's another player who's a player that give me a guard that you think is outside the top 100?
Who do I think is a guard that is out of the top 100?
Yeah.
DeLon Wright.
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of
DeLon Wright.
No, DeLon Wright's within the top 100. He's an impactful player. He's probably in the
he's a backup guard on the worst team in the NBA. How many players are in your top 100? I'm having a feeling if I pressed you on a top 100 pick, top 100, you get to about 220 before you stop.
Well, no, I wouldn't.
I mean, DeLon's good. DeLon's a good player. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, DeLon's an impactful player. If we're gonna be basing this off of impact, I think it's unfair to say that he's worse than 100.
Yeah,
okay, here's a question. Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn is definitely not a top 100 player.
Yeah, he's probably in like the upper, like close to 200. That would be my guess.
Malachi's like somewhere between 180 and 220, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah,
that's like the very bottom of rotation players. Let me put it this way: you give Malachi 37% usage.
Mm-hmm.
You give him 21, 22 attempts a game.
Guaranteed.
It's very hard for me to imagine that he's going to be much worse than Cade Cunningham.
Oh,
No,
I think
no,
that's a bit much. Malachi is
no.
not going to average.
It's
26 points
Bro,
in
not
the
a
NBA.
bit much though. That's the
Rob,
point. Do you
Rob.
understand how many high leverage possessions you get when the offense is built around you? People always talk about the attention that
Exactly.
Cade gets.
Well,
Fine,
okay, Rob,
but he's
yes.
also getting all the rhythm, right? Like you get the ball when like you always have an opportunity to call your number, right? Now I'm not saying that if he played on a team with better spacing and better players that he wouldn't be better. But I'm saying, bro, you're not even the best player in your team right now. You're not even close to the best player in your team
You're
right
not
now.
moving the needle a little bit.
Okay, I get that. All I'm just
There are a
saying
lot
is
of
that
players who have played with shitty teammates who provide no spacing, and none of them have averaged negative win shares, bro. Like you talk, James Harden has played with a couple of shitty rosters at the very least. He's carried some teams that have players that.
Rob,
You know what I mean?
let's. I get it. Let's just not turn this into a Pistons sidebar. We don't care about the Pistons. This is a Raptors channel.
They're 2-10, bro. He doesn't move the needle.
We're using the Pistons as a trigger-free anecdote for how we feel about inefficient basketball players.
Oh, okay. I absolutely agree. Anyways, let's go on to inefficient basketball because I was actually at the Raptors game tonight, and let's go and talk about what the Raptors need to do. Because at the end of the day, like I get what you're saying. I absolutely agree with it, and we could say a lot of bad things about inefficient basketball. I absolutely agree that the Pistons are a horrible team. I was just trying to give a different perspective of looking at a player's talent. I absolutely agree he's not an impactful player. Or he's not a winning player, but.
Just get past the eye test. This is the Pascal Siakam thing. Look, Cade Cunningham is just a metaphor for what I'm talking about with Pascal. Pascal's way better, but it's the same thing. You understand? You have a guy who doesn't have the talent level, the vision, the intelligence, the leadership, whatever standards. Like I've listened to a lot of Cade, speeches, and I imagine whatever.
Absolutely, Rob. But Pascal's still a top 25 player in the league when he plays like that. If you give him the offense, I'm not saying that it's.
We gave him the offense. He was 40%. He was 40% usage. Don't cut me off. Well, first of all, playing for what? Chill. You don't get to talk over me. We're gonna respectfully allow you to talk, but we're not gonna get into this stupid thing where we just scream over each other. Okay. And you're gonna be respectful because that's not what civilized people do. I don't care what you do in your home, but you're not gonna do it here. Understood?
Okay. I understand it, Rob. Wait, I would like to point out that I've been talked over, but I will respect what you're saying, and I want to respect.
Blipped, removed. I'm going to tell you something. Here's something that I'm going to take this as a note to the rest of the channel as well. When somebody expresses a boundary, you don't get to take a swipe back. Okay. I think that I was pretty respectful in listening to your perspective. If I go back and listen to this and be like, no. Well, guess what? Also, I'm the one with the mic, and this is Pensari basketball. So if I'm asking you to chill on a point and I want to get to a point, you don't get to cut me off and tell me, no, we're not going to talk about this. No, man. Like have a little bit of respect and a little bit of humility. I'm going to bring you on because I don't feel like ending your night on this way, but just chill out. And when someone expresses a boundary, just be like, okay. You don't have to say, I'm sorry. You don't have to say whatever. Just say, okay. But you don't get to be like, but that's what happened to me too. Because that's the type of bullshit behavior that I'm trying to cut out of this channel. Do we understand each other now?
I understand you. I'm going to apologize anyways. That's not what I was trying to express.
You don't need to apologize. I don't need an apology. I just need, do I understand or no? And that's it.
Absolutely. I understand.
Perfect. Let's move on. Okay. Anyone else have anything to say? Playing for what? If you have something else to say, please say it.
No, absolutely. I mean, for me,
you were at the game tonight, right?
I was at the game. For me, I think that a lot of things could be fixed simply by having Shroder on the bench. And I really hope, as you said earlier, Darko really just acknowledges that. And if that were to simply just happen, I think the team would probably commit a lot of hard. Like tonight, I saw them run a split action. So, that's what the Warriors do or what the Bulls do. I was on the side when they're actually running it. They had a guy run into the paint. They dragged a couple of players into the paint, but Shroder ended up with an open three that he didn't take. And no matter what, it's just not going to work as long as Schroeder's starting, basically. And I actually genuinely think that this team could be a lot better and would execute and play harder because that's exactly what happened if Shroder was on the bench. I genuinely believe this team could be a lot better because I was there as part of the crowd that was really excited when they actually were committing to the movement and the motion and actually being playing good defense.
Okay.
And the last
take me through the crowd interaction because that's something that I think you can provide us that we can't provide for ourselves because we're listening to the TV broadcast. How was the audience or the crowd there in the first half? Was there a particular turning point where you felt like the energy shift in the building? Was there a particular lineup, particular quarter where that happened? How did people react to Pascal Siakam turning the ball over while dribbling on the first possession? Was there a ugh, or was it like a good play, let's move on? You know, kind of like when did the optimism die? Is what I'm asking.
The optimism died by about the end of the first quarter. Like there was, the Raptors had a little run, 8-2 run. People were happy, like, oh, let's go, Scottie. But as it became clear that the Raptors can't shoot, the Raptors were like, even the shots that their open shots that they were taking, they were not hitting, and there was a lot of just basically pump faking and then going into the paint, and then it was just crowded. And Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis, like there was no chance of them scoring on that.
Right.
Basically, people were just. Like, honestly, I genuinely felt people might have started leaving in the third quarter, and Dame was just destroying us, absolutely destroying us. And I was watching.
Okay. You felt like you felt the crowd got a lot emptier around halftime? And people just didn't come back, you mean?
Yeah, well, people didn't leave, but I could start feeling like some people were itching to get ready because it really was going to be a blowout. Like, we were 30 points behind, and if it became any worse, people were ready to leave. If Scottie didn't have that little run by the fourth, I think people would have already started emptying up.
The run was just two guys were not on the court mainly.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the whole time I was like, Schroeder is killing the motion. Like, one of the reasons why we feel like Scottie is camping in the left wing is because for some odd reason, when Schroeder gets the ball, he's not running any of the motion that they're supposed to be doing. He just wants to run like a side pick and roll, and I don't know, get to the basket. And it's crazy because I thought there was supposed to be an like actually seeing it with my own eyes, like in the flesh. I was like, holy crap, this is really stagnant. This is not 0.5 basketball. Like, you're literally dribbling the ball and waiting to make a decision.
It's on Darko.
It is on Darko. I genuinely feel like
he punished Jakob by benching him. Yak's not the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like,
yeah, well, I mean,
that's the problem, but
he recovered later. He recovered later. I do think this is as good a time as any to present this little sidebar by Coach Ron Niclario, the gentleman that I referenced earlier who just went into the New York Basketball Hall of Fame. And I think that this will point exactly to what we've been talking about pretty much the entire night. And I think it's a really poetic thing. And I posted it on Twitter. So here, there we go.
Get the ball and just rip through and go right. And you bite a guy and you dunk it. But you don't. You get it, and you're hemming and you're hawing, and then now the defense is almost like drying cement. You know? Like, you didn't see that there was the guys backing off on you? Just take the shot. You know? You got, you know what I mean? Certain things, the game, believe it or not, the game tells you how to play, what to do. The game tells you.
I thought that was perfect. And, whether we want to talk about shooting or we talk about roster construction or whatever, at the end of the day, when 5 players play the way the game is telling them to play, like Scottie always plays the way the game is telling him to play. When he doesn't, that's when I'm upset. I'm never upset when Scottie misses a shot or when Scottie has a turnover. I'm more upset when he doesn't do what the game is dictating him to do. And if the game puts a 6'2" point guard on you, then the game is dictating that you post that guy up and collapse. And if the game has a center who is guarding you, who is sagging off you by 15 feet, then the game is dictating that you take this 3 until you make them, until they pay. And if you never make them, then that's tough shit. Get in the gym, work harder. But you cannot play basketball this way and expect to win. You cannot pass up shots that your offense is generating because some idiots on Twitter think you shouldn't take threes, or because you missed the last 4. I don't give a shit that Malachi missed 8 threes, and I'll say it over and over again. Don't come at me. There's a lot of people out there right now that are being like, bro, Malachi shit. No, he's not. And honestly, he's one of the only players on this team who's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I cannot possibly, as someone who's been tortured by this team over the last 11 games, just watching this horrible brand of basketball, I cannot sit here with a straight face and criticize one of the only players who's doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's crazy. Yeah. Any final words, guys? I'm going to go to the presser. Coach Mo.
Yeah, I want to go first. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, everyone's Canadian now, eh? Everyone's polite. Okay.
The season won't start until Darko puts a leash on Dennis or benches him. Like, until I see some actual coaching and accountability, this is going to go exactly as last year did. We're going to just hover around 500 and just wither away and be playing fodder. That's all that's going to happen. Also, the real concerning thing about Pascal, it's like, if I'm not high usage post player, you're getting nothing out of me. You're virtually getting nothing out of me.
Yeah, he needs to buy in, man. I said this in the live yesterday too. It's like, great players find a way. You know, LeBron, if you made LeBron your fifth option, he would still be a super high impact player. Make him your third option, your second option, make him your above the break. If you make him your center, your point guard, it doesn't matter. Great players have a way of figuring it out. That's high basketball IQ. Knowing places on the court, knowing your role, knowing your teammates. I mean, it's just read and react situations.
What
all
happens
the time.
when everything isn't going your way? What do? Basically.
Right. Exactly. But it's like when you get into the lab, like in the off season, and you're just working on your dribble counters and your spin move and your post package and your midi post pull-ups and shit, and you haven't learned all the other elements of the game that can make you a very valuable contributor on the basketball court, like screen setting, properly understanding angles of screens to get your teammates open. It's not like I don't think that he couldn't learn it at this point. I just don't think that he thinks stars need to do this stuff. I don't know who taught him that. Maybe it was DeMar. Maybe DeMar taught him that, because DeMar doesn't set very good screens either. But somebody needs to tell him to lean away from DeMar and lean more into Kyle, because Kyle is the winner between those two. I have a lot of respect for DeMar DeRozan for the culture he set and the time he spent here and stuff. But his style of basketball was never going to lead to winning consistently. It was Kyle who was leading to winning. And all those, teams that were super successful and everyone just always credited DeMar as the leading scorer, and they really were missing the forest from the trees in terms of who was driving wins on that team. And once again, the Kyle and DeMar equation is very similar to me to the Siakam and Barnes situation again, where one guy really is driving winning basketball. Someone asked me yesterday about the analytics profile. Bro, like, Scottie's at almost like 1 valuable replacement right now. Siakam's at 0.2. What are we talking about here? I mean, we're not talking about comparable players. This is not splitting hairs between two players. This is mountains of difference between the way the two players are impacting the game, and that chasm, that gigantic gap that already existed yesterday has grown even further today. Playing for what? Final word, man.
Well, exactly what you said, spreading ideas. I genuinely think pressuring Darko, and also because Darko is a new coach, like, Darko needs to hold and be really real and reflect, and holding him to that and making him reflect on that, on the lineups that he's playing and his attachment to Shroder. I think that's probably the only way that we're going to have any positive development out of the season, because we do need to, as you said, have Scottie. This needs to be a development season for Scottie and OG. That's it.
I mean, he bigs up Scottie and says, "Oh, he's the future. I'm so lucky to have him." Meanwhile, you watch Dennis Schroeder just grind the entire offense to a halt and watch Scottie in the freaking corner. So he's being a bit of a hypocrite. We get it. Pascal's untouchable, and we need to trade him. Whatever. That's cool. But Schroeder? Seriously? That's the shit I can't stomach. That guy I can't stomach. Pascal, it is what it is. Even Fred. Fred had a history here. He has a story. He his jersey, he's on the billboards. We get that.
Oh man, please never ever tell me his jersey's gonna get retired, bro. Because like, man,
if the billboards,
I was like, I feel like he's going there, and like, please don't go there.
Are you crazy?
Okay, good.
You don't get a jersey retirement for coming off the bench on a title.
I'd rather we retire Michael Jordan's 23, just like the Heat did, than
retire
Fred VanVleet's number 23, bro.
And we'll see if he pairs. We'll see if Darko learned from that fourth quarter and pairs Barnes and Jakob, because he needs to find a use for Jakob. It's hard right now.
Bro, that starting lineup just needs a shooter, and it'll be tenable. That starting lineup just needs a shooter.
This comment has me dying. No joke. If Siakam wants to be a great player, he needs to be Aaron Gordon.
He's actually right.
Why is Aaron Gordon catching strays all the fucking time?
He's not. That guy's amazing.
He really is. He's catching strays, bro. Because people try to discredit Scottie by saying he's going to be like Aaron Gordon, and now people are like, okay,
that's a stray. That's a stray.
Y'all need to catch. Y'all need to catch actual like Aaron Gordon basketball. He's really good. He's really good. If Pascal Siakam could be as good as Aaron Gordon was last year, we probably make the playoffs.
Well, the difference is
straight
Aaron
up.
Gordon has settled into who he is as a player.
That is the difference.
And is
He's
embracing.
also playing with a definitively better player than him. And Siakam doesn't think he's playing with a player who's definitively better than him. And he is.
I also think Jokic sets a culture. Like, he just genuinely sets a culture where, like, Aaron Gordon was like, he loves. It's clear that they love playing with Jokic. Like, who wouldn't want to play with Jokic?
He's a very unassuming and very unselfish teammate, but his greatness is like unquestionable. Like the way that he's reading the game, the way that he works, the way that he processes, and the way that he gets people open is crazy. Also, I think that it really, really helps that they cleared the path for him.
Yep.
So yesterday, interestingly enough, I'm really happy I delved a lot into the WNBA. They were talking about the Phoenix Mercury and all of the dysfunction with Diana Taurasi and Skylar Diggins, Smith and, Brittany Griner and, all the bullshit that happened with that team. And they were just like, man, we really don't want a young player going into that situation. And that sucks. This is one of the best WNBA drafts coming up right now. Like, you got so much talent, like in the next WNBA draft. Like, it's crazy, right? You got Caitlin Clark and it's just Caitlin Clark by herself is like box office shit, right? Everyone wants to see her play. She knows who she is as a player. And they're like, if the Phoenix Mercury get the number one pick, like these top players are going to pull out because no one wants to be there. But then they were like, but those top players will not let her be herself. And that is really impressively important because I think about that when I think about, what the Cleveland Cavaliers had with, guys like Carlos Boozer and Darius Miles and DeJuan Wagner and all the shit that was there before LeBron got there. Ricky Davis. And they were all like, yo, this kid, he can come in and be on our bus, but he's not going to, and all those clown comments that they made, they couldn't appreciate the greatness of how an 18-year-old kid was going to come in and save their franchise, but he did, and he delivered them the first championship. And it got me thinking, it was like, you needed to clear the way. You needed to clear the way because you see more guys that come in now, they acknowledge that Scottie is the guy, right? The new guys, they come in, they acknowledge Scottie is the guy. Darko acknowledges. But for someone like Nick Nurse, it's really hard for him to adjust his brain away from Siakam as the guy and Scottie's the new guy. So you need to start fresh.
Yep.
You need to start fresh, clear the deck, get guys like Gradey. If you ask Gradey who's the best player on his team, I think if you put a gun to his head, he'd probably tell you Scottie Barnes, right? But if you asked, like Chris Boucher, if you ask Chris Boucher that, I think Chris Boucher would probably have a very difficult time reconciling in his head how a 22-year-old player who's 7 years his junior is better than a guy who's all NBA. They can't get past the history. And sometimes to turn the next page, you have to burn the book. So I hate to say it, but it's time for the Raptors to turn a page. This championship thing has been over. It's been over for a long time. I'm tired of clinging on to it. It's really nice that it happened. I'm very, very happy to get the first one out of the way. But what I would like is a 5-year window of championships.
But you're saying
if we win one, we win one.
But that means selling Pascal on a serious discount of what you could have got for him 2 years.
I don't care. I don't.
Yeah, no, but
care,
that's the reality.
Point, I'll take Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, a future pick. I don't care. Yep. Whatever it takes. Okay. And that's not shade on him. It's about his fit. His fit on this team is incompatible.
The way he's playing now, where would he fit? The way he's playing right now, where he can't make a three, and where is he going to fit?
But that's
he
the
would
thing.
Be great on the Warriors. He would be great on the Sacramento Kings. He would be great on a lot of them.
How would he be great on the Sacramento Kings? He'd occupy. He can't shoot threes.
He could. He. It's not that
Mike Brown will make
spacing.
Him shoot threes.
Yeah, and he can take Harrison Barnes and. There's a ton more spacing on the Kings. He will be forced to hopefully he'll be forced to play within the system.
Do you think at the start of last year we could have gotten Murray, Mitchell, and a first and filler? I think we could have got it, but we just
DeJounte Murray?
No, Keegan Murray.
Keegan
Murray. Do you think we could have got Keegan Murray, Mitchell, and a pick and filler? But now
they're super high in Murray. I feel like they're super high in Murray.
First of all, Keegan Murray and Davion Mitchell make a combined $13 million. You have to add so much more to that.
Yeah, filler. I think we send something back, but
I mean, you're filler last year. You're talking Rashawn Holmes contract, and I don't touch that contract. I mean, here's something to make you really, really sad. when they, so this is something I heard, that when they were trading for Domantas Sabonis, the same Tyrese Halliburton package was available for Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
Team, that's insane.
Now,
And right now, yesterday I did my MVP ladder. Cheat sheet for anybody who thinks I'm a homer. I totally am. Scottie is 10th on my MVP ladder. But you know who's 4th on my MVP ladder? Tyrese Halliburton.
bro,
He is higher than Tyrese Maxey on my MVP ladder. Bro, the game that he put on last night was a freaking masterclass. It was like 15 assists, 0 turnovers, incredible win. Tyrese Halliburton is like, I was actually asked on one of our Ask Me Anythings on Instagram via Pinsire Basketball, which team would you manage? And out of respect for Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster doing a fantastic job here, I said I would love to manage the Indiana Pacers. Stop that.
Don't say they're doing a fantastic job. I can't let that one slide.
I mean, I can't possibly have so much hubris that I would think that I'm a better general manager than Bobby Webster.
Don't say they're doing a fantastic job. That I couldn't allow.
Okay, well, if I was I don't know, if I was Bob Myers, maybe I would have that level of confidence. I don't have the level of confidence that I can come in and do a better job than the Raptors are doing, even though I think I would have done a better job.
You would have. 100% you would have.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have done the Jakob trade. Right there would have been a better job. That's true. Because I would have drafted Jordan Hawkins over Gradey Dick, so that would have been double whammy there. No, we wouldn't, because we would have had a higher draft pick.
That's true. Yeah, and that high pick, I probably would have taken Bilal Coulibaly, so you'd be fucked again. So
yeah, you would have traded Pascal at the deadline, so not really.
That's true too. I don't know. Like I would have tanked super hard. I have unbelievable amount of faith in Victor Wembanyama. I would have talked to Scottie Barnes and just said, bro, we love you, we appreciate you, but you will thank us for the rest of your life if we get you a pairing of a guy who is literally seeing the game exactly how you're seeing the game. I love what Scottie said about the mid-season tournament or the in-season tournament when he was asked about it. I mean, partially, I wish that he was a little bit more amped for it than he currently is. He kind of had like a very blasé answer. But the one thing they talked about, like, what about the $500,000? Does that motivate you? And please, for context's sake, please understand, you're having a whole bunch of people who are probably making at maximum. I don't want to estimate what guys like Aaron Rose and Michael Grange make, but if they're clearing $100,000 a year, I'd be very surprised. Okay, there's not a lot of money in Canadian media right now, right? So you have guys who are basically working 9 to 5 salaries that are like, hey, this 3-game thing that could add $500,000 to your bank account, like, does this mean anything to you? And he's just like, I don't think about money, I just care about winning. And I was just like, that's such a perfect response, and so in line with what I think he thinks, like actually how he thinks. He's never thought about stats. He's never thought about money. He's never thought about pushing. Everything that he did tonight, 29 points, 9 rebounds, whatever the fuck. I mean, shit. If he really wanted to tonight, triple-double in his sleep. He never pressed. He never pressed. Not one pass was pressed. Not one rebound was pressed. Not one point was pressed. Everything within the offense, everything taken. So to the people who think that he's not your best player, I mean, I don't know, man. Close your eyes. Go follow another sport. You're stupid. That's it, right? It's not, debate is over. Debate's been over. Debate's been over for a while. But like, I mean, this game really should announce the difference between these two players to some extent.
There's this conversation. This is the last thing I want to say. There's this conversation. Sometimes I hear it's like, oh, Barnes he's not taking over. He's not being aggressive. And it's like, he plays like Jokic does, where it's like, he gets off the ball, but at least Denver, they have enough sense to get it back to him. Because it's not like, I'm going to dribble the ball up the court, then I'm going to hold it, then I'm going to post up for 10 seconds, and then when it doesn't work that way. But it's like, even when he's on the bench, it's like he gets off the ball, then he goes into his spot, and he comes back, he tries to get to the ball, and then someone else is doing something, or it's just like, it never comes back to him. It's just weird. It's like no one knows on the bench unit he's their best player. Because if the 4 guys around Jokic pretend like he's not their best player, he can't do what he's doing. Yeah. Because they're not the type of players to just dominate the ball and be like, I'm going to hold it for 15 seconds and I'll pass it to you. And then when I pass it to you, then shoot.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think Scottie's biggest curse right now is that he doesn't have like the type of ego and mean streak that Kobe does, or Kobe did. But Kobe, a young Kobe, even a 17-year bro, honestly, I'm not even kidding. I think a 16-year-old Kobe Bryant can come in and own this locker room within a day. That's just balls. That's balls, and that's like go fuck yourself attitude, right? 16, 17-year-old Kobe would just have like enough swagger and enough balls to just be like, give me the fucking ball, get out of my way, you know? And people would just be like, oh, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. Scottie needs to adopt that mentality with this offense
because style. He's more Magic, LeBron, Jokic type, where they're not just like, I'm gonna take 25 shots, screw everything else.
Magic, bro, but like people misrepresent Magic. He was dog. Like real dog. If you fucking try to run a fast break incorrectly and you didn't give him the ball, like he's oh bro, he might smile at you, but he's gonna get you benched next game.
I want to call out Jakob, where it's like I want the game today. It's like anytime he got a rebound or he saw an inbound and he looked and he saw Scottie and he saw Dennis, he always threw it to Dennis. Like that's every single time, even Boucher and Chris, it's like they're programmed to give it to the short guy because he's the point guard.
Yeah, and I mean,
hardwired in these people.
I was looking at that guy the ball. Yeah, I was looking at the positional breakdowns, and Scottie's playing less at point than he has at any point in his career, including first year, second year. He's playing less at point now than ever before.
That shit I hated Fred was doing last year, where he just runs to the ball and big. He does everything but clap. Right? He asks for the ball. And I'm watching like other teams in the league. I'm watching OKC and I'm watching like no one does that. Like they just get off the ball. Chet can bring the ball up. No one cares. Everyone just starts running up the court. Let's get into our offense. This fucking guy comes in and is like, give me the ball because I'm a point guard. It's that thing with Fred last year. I'm a point guard, and if I'm not doing this, what's my purpose?
Well, Dennis can have a lot of purposes in the offense that don't require him to do this. But what I will say is I think tomorrow maybe I'll create some sort of video to create a bit of a momentum around this so that it'll get to the Raptors and then he'll stop doing it. I've noticed that this happens a lot. I know that it to some people may not believe it, but it actually does. Like last year I felt very, very confident that every time I made a low light video about Fred VanVleet, he played a slightly different brand of shitty basketball the next game. So it's like I feel like once you start putting pressure on it and people start noticing, hey, Dennis, why don't you pass the ball to Scottie and initiate? They start doing it. It won't be forever, but you'll see it for a couple of games at least. And I think, against Boston, now you struggle because, if Drew Holiday applies a lot of pressure, Scottie gets trapped, it's really like, it's tough. It's a tough game to ask to initiate because they're a good defense. They're good defense. They're good offense. It's tough. And I think with Scottie, like there's always a sense of like, I want to please my teammates, right? He's always been like this, always. And that's a great quality to have if you have teammates that are good teammates.
That are worth making happy.
Exactly. Like he found Malachi, Gradey open all day. He was just darting it to them. And I'm sure they appreciate it. And they just bricked them. Like, I mean, he could have had 15 assists tonight. Easy 15 assists if people just made shots. The potential assists. The Raptors are second in the league in potential assists. It's a lot of Scottie passes. So,
I want to know a number I want to know is Dennis Schroeder's pick and roll points per possession. Whenever he's like that has to be like garbage.
It's his pick and roll efficiency. I checked like 4 games ago. It was not good.
And
I think it was like 36 percentile.
People have this perception that he's quick, so it's like he can get into the paint. Scottie in that fourth quarter was getting into the paint way more than Dennis ever could and collapsing the defense.
Dennis does get a lot of paint touches. The Raptors are number 1 in the league in paint touches for a reason. Dennis does get a foot in the paint. The issue is, like, I mean, you saw it in the first half. Tell me if you didn't see it. I mean, I'm sure everyone saw it. Dennis gets into the paint. The problem is he has no course of action and no way out of the paint. They're trapping him to go into the paint, right?
Yep.
And once he gets into the paint, it's like a beehive, or like, he's like in a what you call it, like a spider's web. So he's in the paint and he's got one guy closing off his driving angle, one guy putting his hands up. He can't score over that guy. So he's just dribbling with his head down. He doesn't see the pass. He doesn't see the guy who's open behind him. He doesn't see anything because they've closed off all his viewing angles. The problem is he didn't properly map the floor because he doesn't have the vision to do this, right? When Scottie gets into the paint, he knows exactly where all his guys are. The only way he's going to have a turnover or he's not going to generate a good shot is if someone isn't where they're supposed to be. That's it, right? So if there's a play where Scottie is going to attack downhill and he throws it to a guy and suddenly the guy just moves out of the way, that's going to be a botch play. But almost every single time when you attack the paint, if you're a young hooper, you need to understand that once I complete this initiation into the paint, where will my teammates be and where will the advantages be? And you need to be able to quickly map out where the help came from. Because typically, Dennis is drawing 2-3 defenders every time he gets into the paint. That's a good thing if he could do anything there. If he could power up and shoot, great. He can't. If he could see, he can't. So they're just, and it makes sense. Anytime you get into the paint, you're going to draw a second defender for the most part, right? People often talk about Pascal Siakam being double teamed all the time. No, man, he's just scoring close to the basket. If Pascal Siakam did most of his damage from 22 feet, he would never see a double team in his life. Ever. No one's double teaming Pascal Siakam away from the basket, ever. So really, the double team is coming, and that's like sort of on this offense, like they need to find a way to get cleaner looks for Siakam at the basket. If you're going to have him out there and he's going to do this ISO shit, you need to be able to clear out space for him to do that. Now Scottie's doing that. Jakob can't do that. Boucher is trying to do that. Precious is trying to do that. You got all these guys who are standing in corners, but it doesn't work if no one cares if they shoot, Like if I, as a defense, decide I'm going to leave Chris Boucher, Scottie Barnes, Dennis Schroeder, and Jakob Poeltl, and basically like 6 of your players, including Siakam, open for 3 all night, and I'm going to dare them to beat me. And I am just going to basically keep 1 foot in the paint. You are going to have a terrible night. And I told you, like, once teams figure out that this team is not willing to take good shots and consistently drive into triple teams and quadruple teams, it'll never work. This Siakam, 39 points against the Wizards, I don't rate it because it's just wrong offense. It worked, but it was the bad offense. Like, it's not how you need to score in order for something sustainable to win. Yeah. Anyways, to this, we're going to do the post-game live. I'm just going to pull you guys all off. If any of you are on still afterwards, we can have a final go ahead. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. Okay. And here we go with Jakob Poeltl.
Darko had said that Scottie's been working on hitting angles a little bit more over the past little while. What was that like, finding each other in the pocket a bit more often?
That was good for us. Really gave us the spark on offense. I think we played a little bit more aggressive and with more pace in that period. And yeah, he found me a couple of times because Brooke committed to the ball. We just got to keep working on that kind of stuff. Keep building their chemistry.
What big advantages do you find working with him as a pick and roll ball handler, as opposed to maybe more traditional, smaller ball handlers?
First of all, he can come off that screen and make a lot of tough shots, so it kind of forces the defense to react to him. Forces the defense to make mistakes right there. And then obviously, with his size, like he can read the court very well. Like he has like good angles to pass the ball, like from different kinds of positions.
You guys had a few of these first halves. Things haven't gone your way. You turn it around in the second half. But why do you think? Have you noticed anything that's been a common thing that's happening in these first halves?
I don't know, to be honest, what the reason is. Fact of the matter is that we're not coming out ready to play, or I don't know if it's a lack of energy, a lack of preparation. I don't know, but just gotta find a way to be better. It's as simple as that.
Darko's talked about trying to get to know players on a personal level, and with Malachi was saying put a smile on his face, stuff like that. What does that do when a coach makes that emphasis and tries to get to know guys on a personal level when it comes to development?
Obviously that speaks to his character. Speaks to him trying to help us as a team build chemistry, because it's not just on the court, it's also off the court. We spend a lot of time with each other, so gotta make this an enjoyable process. Like if you're if you're dreading being around each other, then that's going to reflect on the court. So him to put that effort out there is obviously is really good, and I respect that a lot.
Obviously, with OG and Gary out, that takes a lot of your spacing out. How are you finding trying to navigate, the decreased space out there, and what can be done to sort of help with that?
I mean, I think we still got to go out there and take the same shots. We have other guys that can knock those shots down. Obviously, Gary and OG, a couple of our best shooters, but we got to find a way to play the same way. If they want to deep shift or deep help off of guys, then we got to find that pass, make an early pass, and take those rhythm shots. And we got to play the game the same way. Yeah, obviously it'd help if they come back, but it is what it is.
What do you feel like Lillard is able to do against you guys to be effective, especially in that first half?
Lillard? He's an incredible player. But I think we're a little bit slow to react. Me personally, I was slow to react to what he was trying to do out there. He was coming off pick and rolls, and he was getting to the rim. He was getting fouled a lot. I feel like that's really how he caught his rhythm. And then, towards the end of the first half, that's when he really started knocking down some crazy threes. But before that, he was really punishing us, getting by people, getting to the rim, getting layups. And I got to do a better job reacting to that and being able to read that and maybe cover some ground there.
You spoke about OG offensively, but missing him in a game like this, what does that do for your guys' defense?
I mean, anytime we have guys out, these guys play high minutes for us. And we all know that OG's a really good two-way player. So it hurts us on the court, but it's not an excuse. We just got to keep playing. We got next man up mentality. We got a lot of talented guys in that roster. So it's got to be other guys to step up, and the rest of us got to step up and play even more aggressive, try and make up for some of the guys that we're missing out there.
Obviously had an impressive comeback on Monday. Big deficit in this game, but not able to pull it out. Walk me through what you saw.
Same thing every time. I think we got down and then we started playing basketball, started playing team basketball. Once again, we got to find a way to do that for full quarters, but obviously we're fine and we're trying to find ways, but we just got to find them a little earlier.
How are you feeling about your own performance? I know you got player of the game on Monday and obviously solid today, but just in general in the season.
I still feel like I got to do a little bit more. But like I said, it's a long season and I'm finding my ways right now, so I just got to figure out ways to, keep it consistent so, whatever is expected from me is going to come every day.
And then just in terms of, where you're seeing this team currently, you guys play your first play-in game next. It's against Boston.
Yeah.
You saw them recently. How are you feeling about that?
Well, obviously we want to win. Playing or not, we just want to, get in, get into the winning column. And I think Boston is a good challenge for us, especially with what they did to us the last game. So we just got to come here focused. And like I said, play 4 quarters, not just one.
And then what are you seeing from Scottie? Because, even though despite the loss tonight, just overall in the season, he's definitely taken another step.
He's getting better everywhere, defensively, offensively. I think he's, as a leader, as a passer, you could see the step that he's taken, and it's really amazing to see. He's able to lead the team and on defense and on offense. And, obviously with the energy and the motor that he has, it's really good to see.
Scottie, what do you guys need to do to kind of come out of the gates a little quicker? It's been, I guess, three different games now. That's been a problem.
I think it's just about us. Just starting off slow, we missed a couple shots, run back a little. Worried about our shots, so I think we just gotta keep getting over it and just keep playing basketball, We play our best basketball when we just play carefree, run the ball, have our pace, and just play defense, When we play defense, get stops. They got going early, was making shots, but we wasn't really making it that hard on them. They was getting to the free throw line a lot, so we just gotta make it hard on them. Get great contests. Don't let them get those easy ones and just defend without foul.
Darko mentioned you guys have been working on your approach in pick and roll over the last couple days. What did you take away from those sessions and apply tonight?
I was just reading the defense, to be honest. Me just attacking, going downhill, trying to get the guy that was guarding me on the screen. Yak was setting good screens. Precious was setting good screens, so just trying to attack downhill, and when I see a big commit, just dropping it off or either taking it to the rim. One of the two options. If they overhelp, find the corner. It was just about playing basketball, making the right reads.
But when you get like maybe a hedge or they play at the level, and it's not so much about the commit after you get downhill.
Say it again?
When it's not so much about like getting downhill, but if they're hedging or they play at the level, what's the difference in approach if they switch at the point of attack?
Just stay trying to be aggressive. No matter who's in front of me, just try to get in the paint at all times, beat that guy some type of way, and then just make reads from there. So just being aggressive out of it and not allowing the defense to just stop me. Just keep trying to go downhill, attack the paint, and everything else just frees up from there.
Obviously losing isn't fun, but how much are you enjoying this season, having more of the ball, playing point guard more, and having that opportunity to kind of quarterback a team on offense?
I'm just trying to enjoy this process that we're going to, just learning and finding each other out. Trying to come together as a group collectively and just trying to go out there each and every night, trying to win games. That's why I just really look forward to doing, trying to find ways each and every game to try to win.
What's it been like getting to know Darko, maybe a bit on a personal level, and how has he given you confidence the more you kind of get to know him?
You know, he's always coming in, motivated, always trying to find different ways to put an emphasis on the game, push us. When we need to work on something, you know, he's right immediate with it. He just puts that focus on it right away, so on a personal level, you know, he just always comes in with great energy, a great smile, and, you know, it translates, it carries over to his team.
Scottie, how have you tried to change the defense today to try to slow down Lillard?
He was getting downhill and getting to the free throw line a lot. There was, you know, we didn't really do that much, if you ask me that. You know, he was just being able to get downhill, getting layups, trying to take away his three-pointers. I would try to make an adjustment, try to blitz him, try to get out of his hands, and you know, he was just getting to the line, making reads, getting assists. He was just doing a lot out there today, and we tried to take him as best as we could, but you know, once he gets going, you know, it's kind of hard to stop that.
How do you find that balance between like taking over games as a scorer when you guys are like in these big holes and just like continuing to make the right play regardless?
Like I said, it just comes down to just trying to win. That's the main goal at the end of the day. When we're losing, no matter what time, you know, I'm just trying to win games at any point of the game. So sometimes it just comes. I guess a lot of times it comes when we're down sometimes or when we need it, but you know, I'm just trying to win games.
The senior didn't get any kind of a defensive presence in that game at all. What did you see was going on up there?
You're right. We did not have any pop to start the game. I don't know the reasons, but we just didn't bring it. A lot of times I felt that it was poor communication in execution of the coverage. We allowed Damian Lillard to have amazing game, amazing first half. He just picked us apart, and we tried multiple coverages. It just did not work tonight for us. And I thought that everything starting with energy and force that we did not bring to start the game.
I think they made 23s and we easily had 8 or so. We just not getting out to shooters or giving up too many open looks on the perimeter?
I thought that some of those shots were were created of the dribble, and obviously we did not do a good job on Beasley. Last game he made 6 on us. Tonight he made 8 out of 11. We just did not do good enough job closing out, and also we have respect those guys. Like, those guys are really good shooters, professional shooters, and they made those shots tonight.
Why did you make the change with Yak and Precious to start the second half?
For me, that's normal thing. We're gonna try different things. We're gonna try different coverages. I thought that Precious, his switching in the first half was pretty solid, so we just wanted to give it a look to go to that early in the third quarter. It was just like a bunch of situations that we would find a couple of stops, and then we could not just make a layup. We could not make a wide open shot, and a lot of times that bleeds our offense bleeds into our defense, and it's just like the circle there, but we did not bring the energy and the focus that we need to have from the start of the game.
You talked about the big early game deficit the other night, and obviously that's a tough way to live in the NBA. How big of a concern is that, and what do you guys have to do to fix it, make sure you're getting off to better starts?
Trust me, we're thinking about it a lot, trying to figure that out. It's just like 2 guys that are starting the game, they got bring it more, And I thought that we just did not have pop for whatever reason. I'm trying to detect it myself. What was the reason for a slow start and slow reaction? Actually, we started at 8-2. We got a couple of stops, and after that, it was just like we just put our guard down, And they made some tough shots, and they were able to score in one after the other possession, and we were not able to find the same thing on offensive end. I thought that we in the first half that we over dribbled the ball, that we didn't have enough body movement and ball movement, and that was something that we constantly preaching and talking about. We got it better in the second half, but not enough tonight.
Scottie had a lot of success coming off the high screen, both as a passer and a shooter. What did you make of him in that play type tonight?
That's actually something that we talked about and worked with Scottie last 48 hours since the last game. That was a big emphasis, trying to get him in pick and rolls, trying to get him to attack downhill, and to understand what kind of force he is when he's attacking the rim. He has very good decision making there. He was finding rollers, he was fighting open shooters. I thought that his pick and roll game tonight was really good.
What did you guys work on when you were kind of working?
Angles of screen, how to attack, how to have a roller in the same line with a player who is attacking the pick and roll. And Scottie is a force. Once we set good screens from Precious or Jakob, I think it's opening up a lot of lanes for us to go downhill.
You guys have played some of these bigs who can shoot. Kristaps the other night, Brooke tonight. What can you do with Yak to help keep him both in the paint and defending those guys?
It's a tough one because those guys are not just pick and popping, they're also rolling. So we're trying to keep him in the coverage that he goes down the line when those guys are rolling. And then if those guys pop, we want to go into late switch. And a lot of times is it that late communication or lack of communication, we just don't get quickly enough to those guys. And those guys are deadly. If they see a little bit of day of light, they're going to shoot it, and they're very, very capable shooters. So we got to continue getting better at that, helping him and, helping our whole team.
All right. Thoughts, opinions? I don't know. Bring on Ghostface. You're still here. Thoughts on what we heard tonight?
They all gave the type of interview I expected from them, but one thing I do appreciate about Darko is, even though you could see it in his eyes, he's pretty frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
You could still see fire in his eyes. Like, he's still not. I do appreciate the body language. I appreciate how relentless he is.
You mean on the court?
Over here, he still looks a little bit fired up to me, but He looks like he's still not ready to give up, and I appreciate that after the season we had with Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I mean, the day that he comes out with a baseball cap with DR on it and, just, rubs his head, rubs his brow, and he's
Slouching.
like, what do you want from me? Look at these guys. Yeah, then you'll know. Then you'll know that this experiment has failed.
Hopeless.
I'm not sure. Like, I feel exasperated for him. I know that he doesn't want this team to play this way. I understand,
Right.
in the previous live, I equated it, to like people just not doing what they're supposed to be doing and then basically forcing you to allow them to do what they want to do because, it's like when you have a child and you say, can you please clean up after yourself? Can you clean up, the mat, or can you clean the chair? And then they put like, I don't know, like rubbing alcohol on it or some like corrosive acid on it. And then, you know what I mean? Like the next time you're just like, do I continue to stick with the process of asking them to clean up themselves? Or is it just more cost effective for me instead of having to replace my dining table and mats and chair every single time? And at some point, you just have to ask, is a person doing it on purpose? Like, it's not difficult what he's asking them to do. I mean, we saw Jalen McDaniels and Chris Boucher. Certainly, Chris Boucher is not someone that I equate with like super high level of IQ in terms of basketball. And he just executed. He did what he was supposed to do. He crashed the glass. He played with force. And this is 2 games in a row. So there clearly are some people who are buying into what Darko Rajakovic wants to do. I do find, some of the questions that the media asked Scottie to be kind of funny. Specifically that one about what it's like to play point guard more. I'm like, he's never played point guard less. He's never played point guard less. And I think people are very cautiously weary of anointing Scottie as the best player on the team right now. But through 11 games, it's not even close. And they need to change their focus because this is a player who desperately needs shooters and movement shooters and cutters and rollers and defenders around him. Not the easiest players to acquire, but you have a pretty big chip that you could move to the center of the table. And I think isolation scoring is something that a lot of teams out there value for whatever reason. And there might be teams out there that feel like they're a little bit closer to contending that could really use an all NBA type player in their lineup to provide a little bit of spacing for their offensive players. And maybe those teams are better situated to maximize Pascal Siakam's downhill attacks and stuff because they'll have better spacing. Like I think about him like on a team like Boston. I'm not entirely sure he would buy in, but in place of a Kristaps Porzingis type, right? Like, I mean, I think KP is great for Boston, but like, I mean, Pascal could be awesome, as well. Like he would have so much space to attack downhill. He wouldn't be as inefficient. So I don't know.
And he could create,
Yeah, and he can create a little bit, and he can probably do a little bit better job of just not turning the ball over off his foot than Jaylen Brown. So I don't know. Like I think about like his overall like skills package and how so many of his weaknesses are exacerbated playing on a team that is trying to play the way that we're trying to play.
It's not tailor made for the way he plays basketball at this point in his career,
right?
And but it sucks because if he wouldn't, I think what it is.
But if he would buy in, I think it could work.
That's the point I was gonna make. Maybe it's the fact that he worked so extensively on his isolation scoring after the whole fiasco in Tampa that he just doesn't want to play off ball anymore, and it sucks because a little bit of a tangent, but it's gonna lead back in a way. After that first conversation we had, I watched a lot of Sar Thompson, and the way he times his cuts is beautiful. It is fucking beautiful to watch, right?
Yes.
Sometimes he'll cut into the wrong, but he's mostly cutting in the open space, and he's creating opportunities with the ball coming to him from Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart. Now imagine if Siakam could cut with the ball coming to him from Scottie and Yak. Like this offense would flow so well.
Am I ridiculous to say that if right now we just swapped Sar Thompson for Pascal Siakam, we would be a better team?
No, absolutely not, because you're getting defense, you're getting
crazy rebounding, you're getting elite passing, you're getting so much, you're just not getting shooting. And guess what? Pascal Siakam's bricked like 19 of his last 23s right now. So Sar Thompson would help you. You know who else could probably help you right now? Probably Dyson Daniels, probably Trey Murphy, probably Herb Jones. There's a lot of players. People don't value these types of players as much because they don't put up those gaudy, like 25, 23, 24 point per game stats. But in order for an offense to work, it's 5-on-5. It always comes down to 5-on-5. If one guy's always in the wrong place, I made a post the other day about that final shot that Siakam hit against Washington, where Scottie does that little thing to get Denny Avdia out of the way for him. And, it's thankless. This doesn't show up in the box score. It doesn't show up on anything. Nobody credits it. Nobody cares about it, that he did that for his teammate. But I wondered aloud, does Scottie know that his teammate won't do that for him? That small little
smart
shift.
enough to know. He's smart enough to know.
I think he is too. And that's the thing. Like the frustration that he felt last year, I felt it for him as well, because I was seeing what he was seeing, and right now I'm seeing more of exactly what I was seeing last year. It's a different faces, different people, different ways of self-sabotage. But for a player as intelligent as him, and honestly, if you really, really hone in on him, like when I do some of the game breakdown tape, I try not to be biased when I look at the tape, right? Because if I only look for Pascal mistakes on defense, I'll find 100 of them, and then I'll come to the conclusion that he's the worst defender ever, right? But if I don't look for Scottie mistakes on defense, I'll never find them. So sometimes what I like to do is I try to look for the opposite. I try to look for the opposite of what I think is happening, and I try to disprove myself. So, like, for instance, if I think Siakam is being a horrible rebounder, I'll look for 5 times when he wasn't. Or if I think Scottie's being like really timid or passive, then I'll look for 10 times in a game when he wasn't, to try to shit test myself. And if I can't find it, then I'm right, and if I can find it, then I'm wrong. You know what I mean? So I think that's been like a really good way to look at the game, as opposed to having the blinders on and being like, see, Scottie can't dribble because he has a turnover. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I think, man, if I was running the Raptors right now, I would be on the phone all night. Indiana, Sacramento, Atlanta, free for all, New Orleans, call in anybody. Give me your role players. Get like the Statue of Liberty thing. Give us your poverty, give us your poor, give us your this, give us your role players, give us the shooters, give us your overpaid contracts, give us your veterans, give us your give us your team guys.
Do you think Sacramento would do a trade without OG? Because I'm still so confused.
Well, they're not getting OG.
That's the thing, right? But I think OG fits their system perfectly. But I don't quite see how Siakam will fit when they have Sabonis.
He fits every system perfectly. That's the beautiful thing about OG, right? He's literally.
He's so
let's try something. Can you think of a team that would not be better tomorrow if they had OG Anunoby? Like, even if they had to swap out like a starter to get him.
No.
Indiana, better. Charlotte, better. Atlanta, better.
He's arguably the most portable player in the NBA, because he might be the best 3-and-D player in the NBA.
Yeah, he is. And that's exactly it. And it's funny because, I have a type as a player. Like, I have a type of player that I absolutely adore, and then there are types of players that I can't stand. Inefficient isolation scorers are my absolute, inefficient isolation scorers and shoot first point guards who don't set others up and make life easier. I don't mean like any scoring point guard. I like certain scoring point guards a lot. But point guards who are just undersized shooting guards who never help anybody else get better are my pet peeve. And really inefficient isolation scorers who don't really have the creation advantage to warrant the level of usage that they have are a pet peeve of mine too. But one of my favorite player types that I love is the 3-and-D. And this goes right back to Otto Porter, right? And long, versatile wings as well. Like, I was a very big fan of Andrei Kirilenko way back when. Yeah, like that's like the player type that I adore. Kawhi Leonard early on. And yeah, now OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, prior to Scottie Barnes coming to the Raptors, OG was by far my favorite player on the team. By far.
That makes sense. Speaking of you think Isaac Okoro will fit on this team?
No.
No,
maybe unless he got a lot better over the last year. Not really. I've been watching a lot of Kings social media stuff, and I keep thinking, if they're not super sold long term on Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, I would go for that package in a heartbeat. It cannot make you worse.
I think they'd be sold on Kevin Huerter, maybe not Harrison Barnes though, because he's getting up there in age.
You mean from our end? You wouldn't
No,
want
from
us to have
their
Harrison.
end. No. I would want us to have Harrison Barnes and Kevin Herter, but I don't think the Kings are sold on Harrison Barnes in the future as much as
Oh
it would be
no,
on Kevin Herter.
but I mean, like they have Malik Monk, they have Chris Duarte, they have De'Aaron Fox, they have so even if you could, I don't know, hypothetically, you could give them Jalen. You can't trade Jalen McDaniels. Some sort of filling thing, and I mean, like also we think of Siakam as a big, right? But I mean, like he is still a defensive upgrade on Domantas Sabonis. He could play.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in theory, if you had the following lineup: Malik Monk or Chris Duarte, whichever one you want to start, probably Malik. De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, Pascal Siakam. Is that not a competitive team, or a hell of a lot more competitive team than they have right now? I think that makes some sense. And I mean, like Siakam is like, I mean, my God. I mean, unless they look at his cleaning the glass analytics and then they notice that he is literally the worst shot blocking big in the NBA right now. 0 percentile. Cannot block a shot.
Who's protecting that paint? Sabonis or Siakam?
They can do it by committee. It'd be Dumb and Dumber.
What does that mean? I didn't get the reference.
Just that neither one of them can do it, but at least one of them looks like they can do it in theory.
Oh, okay.
Right. I mean, see, look, in fairness, the Wizards' collapse was not entirely on the Wizards. Chris Boucher offered some really solid rim contests. And Pascal Siakam offered some really solid rim contests, and Scottie offered a lot of really strong ball pressure. Even Malachi offered some shot blocking. Maybe we can offer Malachi to them to be their starting center. But in seriousness, I think like Pascal Siakam, as much as he has a lot in common with Scottie, he does have a bit in common with OG as well, apart from the 3 part. So, the Kings' motion offense creates gaps for players to drive and attack so much.
Right.
So if they can stagger some of Fox and Siakam's minutes, where Siakam flanks second units and Fox is doing more of his damage with the first unit and Siakam's more of a spacer in the first unit, he can't be worse than JaVale McGee and, centers, right? Alex Len and, like guys like this, Rashawn Holmes, the guys they've had in that spot for the last little while. And so like I could see an advantage to playing Keegan at the 4 for the Kings, and then maybe going small with Herter at the 3 or whatever. But I think Siakam offers more defensively than Herter for sure. So I mean, obviously, like Harrison Barnes like is a stopgap solution, but that team is young. So I think it also, like, if you think that you can keep Siakam in Sacramento, it also allows you to sort of build around a core of guys who are all in their 20s. Now I'm saying in his 20s in the same way that someone who's trying to sell you like expired bread is trying to give you the minutes that you have to eat it. But like, I mean, yeah, he's 29 years old. It's certainly a little bit closer to Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox timeline. And maybe you have to
eat a contract 26 and 27, right? Sabonis and Fox.
I think so, yeah. So 26, 27, you got Keegan Murray is 23, and then you have Pascal Siakam as a 29-year-old, is the eldest of that bunch. I don't think that's a terrible thing to give yourself a 3-year window to, I don't know, sort of low-key compete. And I mean, at least hopefully under Mike Brown and Jordi Fernandez, like he won't feel like that level of this is my team kind of shit. Like he'll walk in and he'll be like, okay, it's a 3-headed monster, and some nights it's going to be my night, and some nights it's going to be Domantas's night, and some nights it's going to be Fox's night, but I'm on Fox's team, and De'Aaron Fox is the clutch antidote to Pascal Siakam's clutch woes, because he was the clutch player of the year last year, and he was like crazy clutch percentages, and he can get downhill whenever he wants, and he's gotten much better as a shooter and a defender. So De'Aaron Fox is not leaking as much oil defensively as he used to. So I don't know. I could see a really, really rational reason why the Kings would want to put their chips on the table, because I mean, they're not
when you traded for Sabonis, you're in a win now mode, right? When you got rid of Tyrese Halliburton, you subscribed to this.
I told my boy Leo that was such a stupid trade when it happened, and it's just gotten stupider and stupider by the day. Like every year, Tyrese.
Yeah.
But I mean, bro, like if you watch Tyrese in like first year at Sacramento, you could see like at least some of this shit. Like I was like, bro, I would have traded Fox. And I mean, now I look stupid too because I was too low on Fox. But like I mean, to me, Tyrese Halliburton's a better player than De'Aaron Fox. Clearly better player.
This season, yes,
You
but
don't
I don't
think
think
last
they're off.
season?
I think no, because I think Fox played so well in the playoffs, and because I value playoff performance. That's just me.
Fair.
Right.
He's also
Right.
older. Like he's like
Yeah,
3
for
years
sure.
older, right? So
Yeah,
he's
I
further
think
along.
Hallie's better this season, and he will be better in the future by a small gap, right? But I also don't think that offense that they have right now would have worked as well with Halliburton as it does with Fox because it's high octane motion. You need Fox to open up those lanes with his gravity, and he's the quickest player in the NBA, right? So that's.
Yeah.
But you could develop a system around Holly. I just don't. I think this one works better with Fox.
No, that's fair. I mean, and the funny thing is the debate was really Fox versus Sabonis because they felt like, sorry, Fox versus Halliburton because they didn't think they could play together. I actually think Halliburton would be great playing off of Fox too. They could have had like a great two-headed, backcourt that made some sense. Halliburton is not super
Agreed.
small. I just don't like. I mean, maybe I've just. It's funny to be lower on Domantas Sabonis than most people are. I was so high on his dad. I've often called him my favorite player of all time, but with him, I've just never really. I don't know. I think he's a good player. I remember going on a debate show once and debating that. How many players is Siakam actually better than? And the one player that I conceded on was Domantas Sabonis.
What does
And then
conceded mean?
Domas
Like,
makes.
agreed?
This was 2 years ago. Well, no, I kept saying that this guy's better. This guy's better. So I said Shea is better. I said Anthony Edwards is better. LaMelo Ball is better. I didn't mean better as in like the context of the show was how many teams would actually build around Siakam.
Right.
So basically, this was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and I went on this show by this Raptor YouTuber, Warwick Reporter, whatever his name is. That guy's a fucking clown to hell. But that guy said, like Pascal Siakam is a guy, whatever. And I was just like, bro, how many teams would actually build around this guy? If you plopped him onto the Charlotte Hornets, are they building around him? No. Plopped him onto Atlanta, are they building around him? No. So we just went down the list of how many teams. And at the time, I think Domas was still on Indiana at the time when we did that debate show. And that's when I started talking. I was like, that might be the one guy where I'm like, if I had Siakam and Domantas Sabonis, maybe I would build around Siakam. But he was the one guy in the NBA that I conceded to.
Right.
And then Indiana traded him for a player that I wouldn't build around. Yeah.
Yeah, even last season, I think I had like Sabonis at like 37, 38, best player in the NBA. And I had Siakam like top 26-ish, so somewhere like that. And
Man, you're just missing my top 25 cut, eh? Top 26, very specific.
I'm trying to remember. I think I had him.
I think I said a lot of stupid stuff last year. I think my stupidest thing that I might have said is that Pascal Siakam's a top 20 player. I think like that might be the dumbest thing I said last year.
I mean, for the first span of time, he was playing like one. So, but yeah, he's not tailor made.
There's so much around him that helped him do that, though. Like it's not just him, and like your offense is still crap. And so like I always look at guys when they have 30% usage, and I'm like, okay, what is your usage rewarding? And it's so hard in a 5-on-5 sport. Like the earlier debate we were having about Cade, it's like, okay, for the third straight year, there's no talent around Cade Cunningham. Apparently, you've gotten Jalen Duren, you've got Asar Thompson. They do good things offensively. They're not total bums. Like one can't shoot, the other can't shoot, fine. But like they're doing good things offensively. A smart player would figure it out. So I always use the Shea or LeBron metric. So I always ask myself, like, what would LeBron do in place of so-and-so? Like if you just swapped LeBron for Siakam last year, how much better did your offense get? Right. And it's immeasurably so much better. Like it gets better. Like, I don't know if you were the 25th or 24th ranked, we weren't, we were like the 12th, but it's neither here nor there. Let's just say we were like the 20th offense last year, or the 22nd offense. And this year, let's just say like, we're not like, let's say we're like the 25th, 26th offense. I think the jump is 10 spots. That's the difference between Siakam and LeBron. And so then you ask yourself, like, well, if that's the difference, how the fuck is one guy the 20th best player and the other guy is the 23rd best player? The gap is much wider than we are giving it credit for because LeBron is old and Siakam plays a lot of minutes. But really, when you start to look at the analytical gap, I think there's a really solid case to be made right now that Pascal Siakam might not be a top 35 player in the NBA.
Ooh, that's hard. Well, as of right now, yeah. But
Okay,
yeah,
let's end this night on an exercise. Let us name 30. Let's go. Let's name 35 players that are better than Pascal Siakam, and let's see how far we get. I'm gonna type them out, and you know what? Chat, give me one. Give me one to start, and we'll just go. Like we'll keep a count. I'm gonna say 1 Jokic right off the bat, right?
Jokic.
So I want to see how far we get, right? So Nemya saying I can name 50. Let's try to name 35. Okay, Jokic, Embiid, that's 2. Luka, that's 3.
Giannis.
Easy. Clutch Tatum. Any debates here?
No.
Okay, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're at 10. 11. Kawhi. Brunson. Hang on. We gotta stay organized somehow. I feel like I'm gonna say something twice. You know what would be smart if I put this into the private chat and actually said it out loud. Okay, can you possibly remember all the names that we've already gone through? We have to do it all over again.
I have a list of my notes, and we mentioned a lot of these players. I could read you off my list if you want.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
All right, Jokic, Giannis, Curry,
I'm
Embiid.
gonna type this out with one hand, or actually, I'm gonna put down the mic and I'm gonna type it out. And to those of you, just be patient with me. I'm not a secretary. Okay, I don't type super fast, but let me try. Can y'all still hear me? Sort of. Vaguely.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. Jokic,
Giannis, Curry, Embiid, Kawhi, Dame, Devin Booker, Luka, Tatum, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jimmy, KD, SGA, Brunson, Howie, D. Mitch, Ant, Fox, Zion, Kyrie, Ingram.
Hang on. Fox, go next one. Fox after.
Zion, Kyrie, Ingram, Lauri Markkanen. I think that's it. I think those are all the players I'd say are better.
Scottie Barnes.
Shit. All right, Scottie Barnes. Tyrese Maxey, if we're going off this season, then too.
Oh, we're definitely going off this season.
All right, Tyrese Maxey, Porzingis, Jamal
You
Murray.
put Drew?
No, not yet.
You definitely should.
Jamal Murray, Drew, Paul George, Bam, and DeJounte Murray maybe, and I think that's the cutoff.
You didn't put Trey?
I don't like his shot selection as
Me
much.
neither. Okay, cool. So no Trey, no DeJounte Murray. Okay, fine. Let me push. Let me push back on one of these. No Paolo. No, not yet.
No, not yet. No, he's been very inefficient to start.
I'm gonna put Chet. I would put Chet. I know it's
Fair
10
enough.
games. I don't give a shit. He's great.
Fair enough.
Let's see who else. Alperen Şengün.
Fair enough.
I feel the reluctance of putting these young guys. I get it. Trust me, I do. But Şengün, 11 games in, is having a better 11-game stretch than any 11-game stretch of Pascal's life. The gap is widening by the minute.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Okay, so let's see how far we got. And I'm positive we're missing someone. And you didn't. And
Drew.
yes, you didn't put Sabonis, right?
No, Ja Morant. I think I forgot him. He didn't play yet.
Ja for sure. Okay. Oh, whoa. We're missing someone. You not putting Jaren Jackson?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe Cat.
I would. I would put Jaren. I would not put Cat this year. Cat and Julius Randle have been absolute ass.
Randle sucks.
Okay, so Ja. Okay. You wouldn't put LaMelo? DeRozan, Levine, none of those guys. I
Levine,
agree with that.
absolutely not.
DeMar is
DeRozan, you
close.
can have a case. Yeah, you can have a case.
He's
I don't
close.
think the gap is that big.
Would you put you wouldn't put Wemby? No.
I don't think he gets the ball enough yet. But if we're going off pure impact,
We're going off.
yeah,
If we're going
okay.
off this year, I mean, this list could be 100 players long. But we're giving
Right, that's
giving
what I'm going.
Siakam a little bit of breathing room here to adjust to a new
Yeah.
offense. I'm gonna put. I would put OG. 100%. I would put OG.
Would you put CJ McCollum?
No, I wouldn't put
No.
CJ. Who else would I put? Who else would I put? Let me see. Let me see the chat. Let me see if the chat has some great ideas. Ant for sure. Ben Simmons. Wow, y'all fucked in the head, man. Ben Simmons. Mikal Bridges. What? You missed Mikal Bridges, bro.
No, I said he was the cutoff. I said maybe there's a case because he's been kind of inconsistent to start.
Okay. I know this is kind of your list, but I'm adding a couple. I gotta add
Oh, go
JJ
ahead,
to
go
this. I gotta add JJ to this because, like, I mean, to me, it's not even question. Like, that dude impacts defense. If we put Bam on there, gotta put Jaren Jackson
Yeah.
Jr.
Fair enough.
Oh man,
You can make a case for Brogdon.
You could, but health is part of it, and I can't.
Oh, you have text?
Jaren
Okay.
Jackson. Desmond Bane.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so let me get this list up, and we'll count it out. I mean, I'm positive we didn't get 35, but I'm also positive this list is not comprehensive and being very generous. But let's see.
Oh, how about Cade Cunningham?
No. Okay. Wow, this is the stupidest comment in the history of the world. Whoops. Forgot to put commas. This is what copy and paste looks like. Okay, so man. All right. So Jokic, Giannis, Curry. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We didn't put Jalen Brown?
No. We could though.
This year? Okay. Start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. It's almost rigged, man. It's 36. That's 36 players. I mean, honestly, I think Jesus Christ. Shit. Killian Hayes.
Johnny Davis.
Yeah, okay. I was about to consider that for a second. Did you say no LeBron? This list, I put Bron here, man. BRON somewhere in this is my password. This is my password for my email.
People are missing names. Someone said no Shea, and he's like up there. He's already like in the front.
Yeah. I forgot LaMelo. I don't rate LaMelo that high personally, but I mean, like, I am firmly with Siakam. I am firmly in the Bradley Beal camp at this point. Like, that's the range. Better than CJ.
Would you put Harden?
I did not put Harden.
Would you for so far?
For last year, hell yes. This year,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Right.
We didn't. So I mean, like, look, man. There's a lot of players that we didn't even talk about. I'm gonna just pull up very quickly, like, just to give us a nice little reminder of our blind spots. Hang on. Basketball Reference is gonna give me an idea of who we missed, because I have a feeling we missed at least like 10 guys that at least warrant a discussion. Hang on. Leaders. Minutes played, Cade Cunningham. Field goal attempts, Cade Cunningham. Field goals missed, Cade Cunningham. Turnovers, Cade Cunningham. That's the leader. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, how do you lead the league in all the worst things? Does he also lead the league in technical fouls? He does not. But, like, I mean, my God, this is craziness. Okay. I would imagine that value replacement would be a good place to start, but okay, win shares for 48, value replacement. Okay, cool. So, Scottie Barnes is 8th in the league in value replacement. Not bad, Scotty.
Nice.
All right. Desmond Bain, we included pretty much every single person in the top 30 for value replacement. We did not. Okay, so here are the players we did not talk about that maybe, according to the analytics, deserve some sort of shout out. RJ Barrett, fuck no. Mike Conley, no. Draymond Green, no. CJ McCollum, no. Kyrie Irving, damn, yes. We did not list Kyrie.
No. Wow,
Derek White.
Ooh.
I got to give Derek White the edge on that one, man. It's
Rudy
close. Huh? Rudy Gobert?
Yeah.
I say it's a toss-up. It's close. I mean, like, there's no way in hell that... I don't know.
Impact this season, but he's not a better player.
Tobias Harris has been a better player this season. That much I will tell you, but he's not a better player overall, I don't think. Aaron Gordon, worth mentioning. I don't know if he's a better player, but he's worth mentioning. Let's see, who else? That's about it. So I think I am now comfortable saying that Pascal Siakam is a top 40 player. We didn't talk about Evan Mobley. He's had a kind of down year, to be honest, but he's had flashes.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about Michael Porter Jr., very valuable player in the wrong place, wrong time. We didn't talk about Cam Johnson, commanding isolation scorer who doesn't do a hell of a lot else.
Cam Thomas.
We didn't talk about Franz Wagner. We didn't talk about Josh Giddey. We didn't talk about Jalen Williams. We didn't talk about a lot of players. So in fairness, I think that nothing that we've said here is disrespectful. And in fairness, a lot of these guys are a little bit older. They'll probably age out. Well, not a lot of them, just basically LeBron. But yeah, I think Kyrie deserves to be on the list. So I am pretty firm saying Pascal Siakam has fallen from top 25 to top 38, top 39 player. Cool. I would put Scottie in the top 15, 17, 18 of that list, though. Like, he's firmly there for me. Scottie's a top 20 player for me right now.
Not a bad take. Not a bad take at all.
It's not a bad take. It's a hard one to defend, obviously, but like, he's doing things across the box score that are incredible, and he's shooting 37.5% from three across 11 games, where he's doing it on high volume. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Like, I mean, I was listening to the Athletic Pod talk about Cade yesterday, and I don't know why I have this such a hard on to hate on Cade, because I want people to wake up to how bad this guy is at basketball, and they're just talking about like how impressive his jumper is. Because he shot like 40% in college or some shit like that. And I was like, bro, he's shooting 29% this year.
Wow.
Like, what are we talking about? 29%. That's worse. That's almost as bad as Pascal Siakam. There,
I think
that's another
very
strength.
aesthetic, smooth-looking jump shot. That's probably the reason.
This is exactly it, man. Because when people see that guy's face, it's like they are dazzled. Good. They are dazzled. That's what a superstar is supposed to look like. They see his game. It's milky smooth. That's what a superstar is supposed to look like. And then they see Scottie Barnes, right? And they're just like, that's what a role player is supposed to look like. And they can't wrap their head around it. They can't. So basically, for Scottie to break through, it's going to be the same path that Alperen Şengün is taking. It's going to be the same path Josh Giddey is going to have to take. Same path that Nikola Jokic had to take, which is the path where the eye test does not match the impact. You know what I mean? There's.
But do you think with those players the eye test doesn't support their
argument? The eye test, if you have eyes that work, but if you don't have eyes that work, you just see a fat guy, from Serbia setting picks and like moving at the pace of molasses. Like, I mean, people get passed over for a myriad of reasons, and I think one of them is this aesthetic idea of what a basketball player is supposed to look, move, act like. And I think that
agreed.
Like, when you look at like at the end of the day, if Vince Carter, does a step back and he gets 6 feet of clearance on that step back, and Kobe does a step back, which is way smoother, but he gets 5 feet of separation. And then when Vince launches into his shot, that he can get that shot off, and just again, from the physics of it, in 0.33, 0.39 seconds. And Kobe is like a fraction of a second longer. And Vince is getting like 6 inches higher on his jumper. then at the end of the day, the gap between these two players is a lot of physics.
Right.
But one just looks way better. Kobe's game was the smoothest shit on earth. Like, it was so smooth. And I can understand why people thought that Kobe like was the best player in the league and that LeBron was this brick shit house, like, who wasn't. But LeBron was better than him for most of it. You know, he was just better. And there's just a dazzling element, and players get overlooked for a lot of reasons. Sometimes their game is just boring. Like Tim Duncan, he's criminally slept on, man. Tim Duncan, one of the top 6 players all time. And I don't think he ever got really the respect for it, you know, and he was doing it through craft, and he was doing it through team, and he won championships, and people never gave him the credit because he didn't talk like a superstar. He didn't look like a superstar. He didn't dress like a superstar. He didn't move like a superstar. He wasn't bouncy, athletic like a superstar. But listen to how people fanboy over Sean Kemp.
Because the remake, because he had all the dunk packages.
Because he had the dunk packages. He was exciting to watch. So it's the same thing. You know, when I watch Cade play basketball in AAU or whatever, it's smooth. It looks great, you know. But there's always that element of like, if your eye test keeps registering bricks for like 7 years in a row, at some point, maybe the eyes are wrong, you know? And with Cade, with Siakam, with guys like this, it's just like, it looks smoother, but it's not effective. It's not as effective. Because when I look at Pascal Siakam, it's so interesting today when you see Pascal Siakam attack downhill. It's the same defense that Scottie Barnes is attacking. They have the same advantages, disadvantages. Ironically, they're playing mirror offense because whether it's Scottie spacing for Siakam or Siakam spacing for Scottie, they're working with the exact same spacing, right? In a little way, in a weird way, it's like you're running a weird science experiment to see which of these players is better at doing this one thing, which is collapsing the defense in the middle and picking them apart or scoring. And it was so interesting how on balance Scottie was on some of his attempts and how he was always just managing to get this more room to get the shot. Now, there was a couple of boneheaded, you know, moves where he just kind of threw it off the glass, grabbed it himself. I don't know if he's right physically, but it was just so impressive to see how much more space he had on the release and how much cleaner those attempts were, and ultimately almost more effective they were than Siakam trying to do the same thing where Siakam's falling out of bounds. And the whole movement pattern of Siakam looks great, looks much smoother. Scottie's like very herky-jerky, stiff, you know? But one is just effective and the other one's, you know, missing all the time. So it's just,
that's a good point. It also, like something weird, like Scottie, like I see it, like he's such a walking contradiction because his movement looks so clunky and raw, but he plays so freely. Like it's just,
and he's
it's
on
weird.
balance. And he's on balance. That's all that matters at the end of the day, right? Jokic, balance. Luka, balance. When Brian told me last year that Scottie was spending all this time like doing yoga and stretching and all this stuff, I was like, thank God. That is the one thing that he really, really needs, is to open up his hips, you know, and to make sure that he has that sort of fluidity and flexibility. But that ability to always stay on balance as a basketball player is so underrated. And I think it's like, it's balance and coordination have to be worked in. When it's so funny you mentioned Asar. So freaking on balance.
He stays well when he's in transition. I think sometimes he will get out of balance, but that's just a part of like.
But how he recovers when he gets off balance is crazy. Like when he gets beat, the way that he is able to switch his body, almost like he's teleporting to the next place. He doesn't move to the next place. He's teleporting to the next place. And there's space that the other player has who doesn't have his balance, coordination, or vert, and just speed and force. He's so strong. So it's just like it's insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
It
that is such an interesting part of it too. But I think like when people saw Asar's like clunky sort of jump shot, it put Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson above him in a lot of people's minds. And actually, you know, I had him as low as 9th. Fuck up on my part. But some people had him even lower than that. Some people had him like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Some people said he shouldn't be a lottery pick because he can't shoot. And it's just like we're missing all this other stuff. And granted, it's very hard to value Asar Thompson, just as it was with Amen, because you know who the hell's watching Overtime Elite? How do you judge the competition? But obviously the Pistons got one right for sure. Like I think they've gotten 3 right so far. I think they fucked up on Cade, and I think they've got. I don't know about Jaden Ivey being right, because personally, like I think it'd be very hard for me to like pick him in a redraft right now over Shaedon Sharpe or even Dyson Daniels, but like, or maybe even Keegan Murray. I think I could see the case over Keegan. I can't see the case over those other guys for sure.
But what will be the case over Keegan, I think? Wait, the isolation scoring? Because I think Keegan gives you a lot more.
So
and he's better defensively.
Do you think Jaden Ivey's better than Keegan defensively?
No. I think Keegan's better. I don't think Jaden Ivey's
Keegan
all
is
that as
better.
a defender.
No, I know. Okay, that's why I was a little bit shocked there. I think at the end of the day, I think what gives the advantage is age, and I hate to be that person, but like I think that the fundamentally like who a player is at 19 and who they are at 22. When I have seen like proper development curves for players between 19 and 22, like I think about Tim Duncan at 19. Versus Tim Duncan at 22 when he came out of Wake Forest. I think about David Robinson at 19, and I think about David Robinson at 24. Like these players are fundamentally very, very different players. So when I compare the rookie season of a Chris Bosh or an Evan Mobley who came out at 19 to a guy who came out at 22, they're not going to be close. I mean, Tim Duncan was almost a walking MVP when he came out of Wake Forest, right?
Right.
That gap, and I mean, look at Scottie Barnes right now. I mean, far be it for me to say Scottie Barnes should be a senior at Florida State right now. He'd be the number one pick. He would be Wemby, I don't want to say Wemby-esque, but like he would be a generational type of pick next year. Teams would be tanking right now to get Scottie Barnes. Because this version of Scottie, if he was doing this at Florida State, would be like a 32, 33 point, 15 rebound, 6 blocks per game type of crazy athlete. He would be killing people. I mean, he's doing this in the NBA. Imagine him in college right now. Like if I could take Scottie right now, because Florida State is struggling right now. Shout outs to Leonard Hamilton. Shout outs to Jason Simpson. Shout outs to Bobo Miller and everybody at Florida State right now. You know, their season is, getting underway. But if I could put him right now for a season, just say Raptors, y'all not going nowhere. Scottie needs to go back to the Seminoles for one season. Can you imagine the type of season he would have at Florida State right now, the player that he is? He'd be the greatest college player of all time, or one of them. So that's the point. Sure. Like it would be one. Like he would be like he would be putting up like it would be insanity. So putting a pro at the college level of his size, his strength right now, and that's the gap. And that's who you drafted. When you draft a 22-year-old, that's what you have to think about is what will Jaden Ivey be in 3 years? Now, of course, sometimes you're just wrong. And I mean, you have to measure that out too. Like you have to say, okay, well, this guy, at least I know who he is at 22. He is this fantastic player. I have more data on him. I have 4 years of trackable growth. But then some teams are like, wait, but I actually think that I can develop better than Iowa State. I think I can develop better than, Michigan State and so I'll actually prioritize having this guy in my program for the 3 years that I would have lost with the other guy. And I'll trust that at the end of the day, I'll produce a better basketball player. Difference is some people don't know what they're doing with development. Some kids aren't actually interested in developing. And now you have the extra caveat of developing while being paid to be a professional athlete with all the temptations that comes along with that. I will say, however, that now you get a clearer view of it now that you have NIL dollars. In college, I mean, shit, like I'm looking at WNBA salaries. I'm looking at what Caitlin Clark is making. I'm just like, there's actually a good financial incentive for her to stay in college.
Dude, they're making money now?
Yeah. College players make money now.
Wait, so when? What was the reasoning? I thought the NCAA didn't allow
They allow it now. So it's the NIL name, image, and likeness deal has allowed college players to make money. And so you have players like Oscar Tshiebwe, who is a hell of a college player, but will not be that on the NBA level. You could also take a guy like Zach Edey, who can make a ton of money with name, image, and likeness, but probably won't even, get a guaranteed NBA contract.
Right.
So I mean, it's offering a really good. It's great for the college game. I hate to say that financially incentivizing it is great, but I mean, like, why? I think the Fab Five documentary had a role because of how widely seen it was about how much they cribbed and bitched about their merch and everything, and how the college game did them wrong, and Chris Webber, the whole scandal. I mean, I think that it amplified a discussion that had been happening for years about the college game and why it needed to be reformed. So I'm very happy that these players now get to make money. And for players like, the big names, like, again, like the best college players, yeah, they make more money in college right now than they would in the NBA.
That's pretty. See, one thing is crazy. I had no idea this even happened, but
Look at this comment. Carbon Chung saying Bronny now makes $7 million a year.
that's insane. I
Do
had
you
no idea
realize
this
that
happened.
Bronny James's contract right now through NIL and all of his earnings is greater
It's
than
better
his
than Malachi
father's?
Flynn's.
Number one, it's better than Malachi Flynn's. It's actually much greater than the rookie contract that his father signs for being the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Considerably greater. So that gives you an idea of the scope of economics in basketball. But yeah, any final
I am a
thoughts?
fan.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on one tangent about that, and then I'll drop my final thoughts. So in 8th grade, I wrote a paper on. We were given an argumentative paper on college sports and payment, and I wrote mine on Sebastian Telfair, the player. He played for. He was cousin with Stephon Marbury.
I
He
know
played for the
Bassie.
Wolves.
I know him.
Yeah, Bassie. And one thing I discovered when I looked into his story is he went into college. No, he went into NBA earlier. I forget, it was like after 1 year of college or
Mhm.
1 year of high school because he needed the money for his family. And because he took that jump so early, he wasn't able to properly develop his basketball skills, and he couldn't really last in the league, right? Now I'm a lot older, so I understand there's a lot more factors that go into that. But he did say once that if there was like an incentive, financial incentive to the NCAA, maybe he wouldn't have went to the NBA so early. And
If was a fifth, yeah, okay. Look,
yeah,
I was thinking about. It's funny you mentioned Bassie because I was thinking about him yesterday, and all of these tales of these guys should have stayed in school, did this, did that, right? Sometimes it doesn't
yeah,
help, man.
yeah, agreed.
It
It
doesn't help.
varies per situation.
Yeah, like there are certain players where you could say they should have stayed one more year. They could have developed their game. They could have whatever, right? I mean, you could even say a guy like Kwame Brown or Tyson Chandler or Eddie Curry, and none of these guys necessarily lived up to the hype or whatever. You can say that for sure. I think the one argument for staying in school longer is for your body. That's the main argument. So
That's
someone
what
like
I'm told.
Tracy McGrady, right? Had he been a 4-year athlete, and he's going through an insane growth spurt. And one thing that Butch Carter often said about Tracy McGrady was just simply your body cannot handle these minutes so early. And then he goes to Orlando, they run him into the ground, and his career is over so early,
Yeah.
right? I think Tracy McGrady was done at 32, 33. He was one of the greatest players of all time at his peak. Peak Tracy under Doc Rivers in Orlando was probably like, I mean, he had a season analytically that puts the best Kobe and Dwayne Wade seasons to shame. I mean, people forget how good he was because of how bad it turned out. But Tracy at his peak was truly, truly a top 3 player in the NBA. Unstoppable.
T-Mac's my favorite player ever, and part of the reason why I became a Raptors fan. But I'm pretty sure Kobe said he was the hardest player he ever had to guard besides Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah, and I mean, both players
Yeah.
presented something for Kobe that he couldn't match, which is length and size. And Kobe was smaller than those guys, and he was shorter than those guys, and he was less athletic than those guys.
Right.
Well, I don't say Kobe was less athletic than KD, but like he's obviously much smaller than KD. You can't solve that equation. I remember the quote. Obviously, I think about guys like Lenny Cook, right? I mean, if you remember Lenny,
I don't know who that is. I'm not old enough.
that was right around Sebastian Telfair time, man. They were in the
Was
same
he?
they were in the same ABCD camp. I watched them, and that's the crazy thing. So Sebastian Telfair, the hype around Sebastian came from God damn it, I'm forgetting the dude's name. He was an executive
Well, one
at
of it was
Nike.
Yeah, that, and one of it was he beat Stephon Marbury in a one-on-one in their neighborhood, and that story kind of spread online. That's what I remember from when I wrote
That's
my
exactly
paper.
it. Like these young guys, these executives, these pushers. I consider them vultures, to be honest. Because look, man, like you
I agree.
improperly rating these kids, and then you setting them up for a lifetime of failure. I went on a rant about this on Instagram yesterday, and I felt so strongly for these kids because, no 14-year-old is properly equipped mentally to deal with fame. None of them, not one,
And
not
none
an
of them have the
actor, not
right
a
support
singer.
system. Yeah.
Number one, that. So it made me think about LeBron because LeBron was also like in the same thing, and people who don't remember, the story of LeBron and Lenny Cook. So basically, to recap, you don't know this, I'm assuming.
No.
Okay, cool.
Not at all.
So basically, in the New Jersey area, I was living in the New Jersey area at the time, and we would like really, really watch like the local hoop scene, right? So this included a very young Charlie Villanueva. This included a very young Luol Deng. this included, Lenny Cook, Carmelo Anthony. These are all guys who were kind of in the area, right? And so you would hear about these guys. They were like 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. They're great. And then Melo goes to Oak Hill Academy. And then there used to be this thing called the Adidas ABCD camp, where the top 100 players from a high school, basketball all across the country would come together. And it was in New Jersey at the time. And then you'd watch them. And they had an empty gym, and not an empty gym, like a crowded gym. And you got to see the talent of the world. And Chris Bosh was there. Amari Stoudemire was there. LeBron James was there, Carmelo, and Lenny Cook. And ironically, Lenny was the highest ranked player in the camp because he'd won MVP the previous year. And so the story of Lenny is kind of like a cautionary tale, I think, for a lot of people, because the night before he played Carmelo, and he and Melo were tight, and he and Amari were tight. They knew each other because they're kind of in the same area. And Bassie was he's like a New York City point guard, right? Just like Marbury. So Lenny puts I can't remember, it was like 26, 27 points up against Melo. So he was doing work. And then he goes to New York City to Planet Hollywood. He's 17, 18 years old at the time, to get drunk after the game. And they tell him that there's this kid from Akron. You got to play him at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the championship game. And he's like, all right, I don't know about him. I don't know this dude. And so the game starts at 9 a.m. Lenny's hungover. I don't know if he did drugs or whatever, but he was definitely not himself. And Lenny Cook had this type of game where it was just like, I don't know, like he took a lot of dribbles. Maybe this is my earliest memory of hating players like Pascal Siakam. Just dribble too much, don't do shit, and then take a shot. Lenny Cook was like that too. He took a lot of dribbles, and at that time, you got to think about it, it's 2001, 2002. Like, we had an affinity for watching players like this, like Michael Jordan. There was a lot of dribbles. People overemphasize how much Michael Jordan actually dribbled, but like there is a sort of isolation element to street ball and elements of that. So people didn't care that Lenny dribbled so much. They were just like, at least he makes the shots. And so he's going up against LeBron's team, and then he got out to a pretty hot start. He's hit LeBron with a step back. Then he's like take a couple of dribbles, and he shoots. I think he had 9 points. Maybe LeBron had 6. And so far, so good. LeBron was younger. And then second half comes, and LeBron just dusted him, killed him. Wasn't guarding him too much. They weren't guarding each other one-on-one too much, but they guarded each other a couple times. And then LeBron hits the game winner on him. I think he finished the game with like 23 points, and the entire script flipped right there. And Sebastian Telfair was at that camp as well. Right. And so there's this guy, I think his name was Sonny something. He was a executive for, I think, Nike or Adidas. I can't remember. Like, I just remember him. And so he wanted to write this story about this king from Akron. And he wanted to build this myth around, how great LeBron was going to be, and how great Bassie was going to be, and how great these two guys were going to come into the league and run it and shit. 1 for 2 ain't bad. But I will say this. With LeBron, it's like sometimes a broken clock is right 2 times, even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. I could see, like, at that time what the hype was about with LeBron. And it wasn't even that much hype at that time. It was just a really good kid from Akron, and people were always wondering about, like, who the fuck has he even played? You could see what the hype was about with KD, like young KD, like 14, 15-year-old KD at Montrose. Like, you could see what the hype was about with these guys. But I think the real element of hype was how seriously they took the game. And I wonder if Sebastian Telfair ever took the game as seriously as he should have, because he was already a celebrity, number one. Number two, I would question if the fame goes to your head different if you're already the cousin of an NBA All-Star.
Absolutely. I'd say so.
So I think, like, with Lenny Cook, Sebastian Telfair, Eddie Griffin, holy shit, man. Wow. Rest in peace, Eddie Griffin. A lot of players that just, had that sort of number one tag. DeJuan Wagner. There's a lot of dudes from that era, like, that were just supposed to be next up. James White comes to mind. There's so many players where it's like, when you saw them, DeMar DeRozan, right? But it's like, in the case of DeMar, and, he's a top 3 rated high school player in the world, DeMar DeRozan, right? Compton High School, like, incredible story. And when I watched these players in high school, I remember thinking to myself, like, there's something special about them. And sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes you're right. But the problem is when you're wrong, they got to live with it because they were top 3. But you never have to live with the fact that they were never top 3. You know what I mean? They were never really that good. You thought they were that good because they were playing against nobody. They were bigger than everybody. And the minute they went up a level, all they have to think about is how was I the top number 2 recruit in the world? And now I'm like, I can't get minutes on a D1 rotation. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, it's tough, but it's like we never think to ask ourselves, what if Sonny is wrong about Sebastian Telfair? See, even this concept of like, he should have gone to school, he should have done this, he should have done that. It's like, what if he went to school and then he's Sharif Cooper? It just doesn't work. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He had a 10-year career. It's nothing to scoff at. He went to prison. That, I guess, sucks. But I remember watching Sebastian Telfair and thinking he was awesome too. But now that I think about the player that he was in high school and his size, I'm just like, how is that ever supposed to be effective in the NBA?
Right. That's how I felt about the Thompson twins watching them in the overtime elite. But I'm not as
How
well
is that
versed on
supposed
the
to be
game.
effective?
Yeah.
Because they're so athletic.
They are, but it was the way they were creating space and the way they were playmaking that I thought wouldn't translate well to the NBA. Simply because I thought your athleticism wouldn't allow for that much in the NBA. But I was a novice at the time, so maybe I didn't understand the defenses as much.
No,
But
that's fair. I
get
think
the argument.
I think one thing that helped me see Scottie for how great he was going to be really early on, as opposed to, like the casual takes of 0 level score and shit, was how much he was
Right.
struggling with the lack of space at Florida State. Now it's ironic that he's been drafted to the worst space team in NBA history with the Raptors, but the court is bigger. And this is something that I remember hearing from Roko Leniukic, who was a point guard who played for the Toronto Raptors a long time ago. Was his when he was describing to me the differences between Europe and the NBA was really just extra feet. And when you're a big playmaker who needs straight line driving angles, you really do value that extra space, right? Because then everything's cramped up. Like, you look at Florida State and you look at Scottie's drives, like there's like defenders everywhere. He just can't get space. He can't get past. And so, small point guards, they dominate the college game. Smaller court, smaller 3-point line, they dominate, right? But it's like when they get up, when the small point guard gets up a level, that's when they're going to struggle. Like a Jameer Nelson or someone like that. I mean, Jameer became an all-star, fine, no shade there. But like someone of that package, like a TJ Ford. TJ Ford is like the best college player at Texas, I think, right? He's like one of the best college players in the world. If not, he was the top college player that year. And he came into the NBA and he was not the top point guard in the NBA. So like when you look at the difference between a TJ Ford and a Chris Paul, what is the difference other than, injury luck and history? It's athleticism. They're both athletic, but like Chris Paul's got like 2 inches on him. He's got maybe 4 inches of vert, maybe like 2 inches and that's the difference. That's really the difference. Because I think people sleep on how good TJ Ford could have been, would have been, was actually. But it's so small. Like the gap is so small between, being great and not making it at all. It's a step. It's a step that you can't get. And that's when I was like, okay, Cade, this is going to be bad. Like Cade, Jalen Suggs, like these guys, I was like, I don't know how they're supposed to create advantages when the court gets bigger and the athletes get bigger in front of them.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Your competition gets more athletic, more longer. You're playing with bigs that protect the rim at a height you've never seen. And it can be really hard to translate that.
Mm-hmm.
Like even somebody like Yusuf Nurkic, even though he's not that good of a defender, he'll present problems at first because of how tall he is, how big he is.
Facts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anyways, man, Ghostface, thanks a lot for calling in, man. Really appreciate it. As always, really great conversation. We are 3 hours and 30 minutes into a live, half of which doesn't even have anything to do with the Raptors, which is great too. I love it. I like talking about other things.
It's more basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much for calling in, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night, man.
Sure. Well, I'll have one final thought I wanted to say. As a New Yorker myself, I love seeing Markquis Nowell out there.
You're a New Yorker?
Yeah, I'm from Queens, but I don't live there no more.
I'm from Washington Heights, man. I didn't know that. Maybe that explains why you're so familiar. All right, that's awesome.
I love seeing Markquis Nowell out there. I love the brand of hard over height, even though he might not make it in the NBA. might be too early to say, but his brand is very inspiring, and I like seeing him out there. He is a dog.
Absolutely, man. Cheers.
For sure.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace. All right. New York connection. Love it. All right. Thank y'all to the 219 of you who are still rocking with us at 2 a.m. God bless, man. That is awesome. Love this community. Thank you so much. I hope this live wasn't as downtrodden as the last one. I think I said a lot of what I needed to say on the last one. Yeah, I don't think most of this was hating. I think most of it just is restating that the Raptors desperately need to make a trade, or they need to have an intervention, or they need to really, really think about this offense. I understand, sometimes we can feel like we're getting blue in the face talking about the same thing over and over and over again, but hopefully, the Raptors have a gut check moment after this loss, and maybe it just clicks. Maybe I'm being hopeful, but I hope, because the Boston Celtics are a tough team, man. And as I said before, they're not going to lay down. So we'll see if we do a live tomorrow and break down some tape from this game or the last game, if there's a trend that I want to really poke at. But maybe tomorrow will be a good day to take a day away from Raptors basketball, because I think I've been absorbing too much of this shit. Thank you a lot. Thank you so much, 11. And thank you so much to Leanne and Kawada from Mars. Mike James or Dennis Schroeder. Oh man, you're making me choose. I got to pick Dennis Schroeder just because I have a lifelong hate for Mike James, but Mike James is a better player. Black Nubian, $5. Thank you so much. Okay, so to all of you for the super chats, to all of you who've commented, to those of you who watch, please give this video a like on your way out. I would super duper appreciate it. And yeah, hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow, but definitely Friday, for the in-season tournament. That's exciting. Who wants to go 1, 2, 3 Cancun? Just fuck. Malachi film session. You know what? That is a really dope idea, and let me think on it. I mean, it's going to be him clanking a lot of shots, but like also him making a lot of good decisions. I think Malachi was great. Yeah. Sweater God saying, can't believe we were playing our first in-season game while teams are already knocked out. Facts. That is true. Scottie got to be an all-star this year. Yeah, well, I mean, team got to win first. But yes, his numbers are absolutely clearing all-star. Like, I'm very curious to see what happens to his analytics after tonight. I have a feeling they go to about 6.8 box plus minus or so, and about 1 value replacement. He was good tonight. He was good. His team was not. Need to get better. All right. Peace, guys.